of unlawful possession of firearm and unlawful possession of ammunition. He was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment and 1 year imprisonment respectively. He will serve an effective sentence of life imprisonment, and he was declared unfit to possess a firearm.
Members of Operation Dudula are protesting outside the Diepkloof police station in Soweto, demanding answers on the arrest of their 3 members. Police say the 3 women were arrested at Lilian Ngoyi Clinic in Diepkloof yesterday. They allegedly went into a ward and started questioning each patient about their nationality and demanding their identity documents. Police say they will face charges of contravention of the National Health Act and public violence. Operation Dudula President Zandile Dabula.
Operation Dudula members are stationed at Diepkloof Police Station protesting for the release of 3 ladies that were arrested yesterday. The charges kept changing since yesterday, from being impersonating as immigration officers, SAPS members, it was intimidation, and later at night, trespassing and public violence. We believe that they're busy cooking these charges because they have no base.
Zambian Attorney General Mulilo Kabesha says the Secretary of the Cabinet will now take over the proceedings in determining when late former President Edgar Lungu will be buried. Today, the Pretoria High Court put to finality the matter between the Zambian government and the Lungu family on his final resting place. The full bench of the High Court has granted the Zambian government's application that Lungu must be repatriated back to his home country for a state funeral, much to the displeasure of his family. While the details of Lungu's funeral are not yet known, Kabesha says that government will not proceed with their arrangements without consulting the family.
We continue to mourn with them. It's normal that people can be emotional when this happens, but I think it calls for people to cool down. When they are mourning, they will continue mourning like that until when we bury. And that's why it's important that we bury so that we bring the issue to closure.
And finally, further afield, a wealthy businessman has become the head of Haiti's Transitional Presidential Council, which is trying to restore order and oversee elections in the Caribbean country. Laurent Saint-Cyr called on international allies to give more support to help the local security situation. The BBC's Mimi Swabi has the details.
Laurent Saint-Cyr is part of this highly unpopular Transitional Presidential Council in Haiti, which is basically tasked, a very hard task, of restoring order in this country, which has been plagued by gang violence, and to oversee presidential elections, which are now set for November. He's now become the latest head of this council, and he was inaugurated on Thursday in a temporary location in the capital, Port-au-Prince, given that many of the areas of Port-au-Prince, 90% now controlled by gangs, was deemed too unsafe to hold it.
The top story this hour: a manhunt is underway for unknown number of suspect who shot and killed 2 police officers near Roodepoort, west of Johannesburg. Headlines at 3:30 for SAFM News on the National Pulse. I'm Kolofelo Tefo.
In sports this hour, Bafana Bafana kick off their chant campaign this afternoon, Swartkop Raceway, to celebrate women in sport this Women's Day, and 4 Springboks signed for Rebel League. More details at 3:30.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out, because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
You know, it's interesting. Often when you talk to people and you say you work in the effectively in the current affairs space, there's a sense from people that say Friday afternoon is chill time. It's like down tools time because you don't want heavy things and you just need to chill out. And I've often argued against that. I said, you know what? News is a 24/7 cycle, and we must reflect that no matter when. So this notion that Friday afternoon is complete downtime is a no-no. And to confirm the point, what about the national dialogue? In fact, it will start next week Friday officially. And now we find out that 7 organizations, 7 foundations that are linked to the national dialogue, they're very, very well-known legacy foundations. They've withdrawn, I need to get my words correct, they've withdrawn their participation from the structures of the preparatory task team and the first national convention of the national dialogue that is due to take place a week from today. And amongst the factors, there could be more than one, is there's a sense that what should be a civic society movement or a dialogue is in fact moving closer to government. We'll find out more. This is the National Pulse. My name's Ashraf Garda. Welcome to the show. We got 3 hours of lots of big issues in the world to talk about. To connect with us live, 086 000 2032. That's to call in. Then WhatsApp 0614 104 107. And then you can tweet us anytime. Hashtag the National Pulse. Right, so let's get with it. Can't delay this, can we? First up, one of those 7 foundations, legacy foundations, right? Including, the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, the Steve Biko Foundation, and there's more, is the F.W. de Klerk Foundation. Christo van der Rede is the executive director at the F.W. de Klerk Foundation. Christo, appreciate you talking to us here on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to all of your listeners.
All right, so I am battling to try and understand what this really means, because I look at the wording and it says withdrawn from the press statement, right? Withdrawn from their participation from the structures of the preparatory task team and the first national convention. That suggests there's 2 things. There's the task team to prepare for the national convention and that first sitting of the convention on Friday of the national dialogue. And your organization and others as well have withdrawn from both effectively, yeah?
No. The preparatory task team that consists of the legacy foundations and other foundations were quite intimately involved in the planning of the national dialogue as well as the national convention. What we have discovered and what actually angered the foundations are that the presidency together with the deputy president's office started a parallel process preparing for the national convention. And we were of the opinion that to have a national convention next Friday will actually lead to chaos. It will not really lay a solid foundation for the national dialogue process because it's not properly organized. Processes are not placed. Budget is not properly in place. They made mention of funding that was paid to NEDLAC, but we said that funding came too late. You cannot, within 7 days, organize a national convention because the idea of the national convention is really to kickstart a process and to empower the representatives of the various foundations with a toolkit to go and facilitate engagements at grassroots level. The problem is, who will be invited, who will not be invited. And all that we said is let's postpone it until October of this year so that we can plan it properly because we don't want a very, very important process and a convention in particular to fall flat because it is disorganized or not well organized.
So just so that there's no ambiguity about it, what is the difference between the convention and the overall national dialogue?
The national convention is the national gathering of representatives who will be invited and who has been delegated by communities to attend a national gathering so that people then can get access to all the information and all the processes and procedures and get a toolkit in hand to kickstart the national dialogue at grassroots level. And the national dialogue process, that's a longer term process. And there's various elements to that process. That process is really about bringing communities together. Take a little town, for example, you've got various communities. Those communities will be invited to a school hall or a church hall. There they will sit and they will elect representatives who will then attend, whether it's a provincial meeting or a national meeting, and they will give feedback to the community, but they will also ensure that all the data that they collect, that data is properly processed. So that at the end of the day, we have an action plan, a report that will capture the things that communities raise and the issues that they raise, and with that also an action plan. But that database, all of those things are not in place.
So who then has made the call for the national convention to be held next week, exactly a week from today, right? To make, and obviously against the wishes of many organizations, including these 7 Legacy Foundation organizations.
Remember, the president, it's his prerogative, it's his constitutional prerogative to call on a referendum or to call for the nation to engage with a dialogue. And remember, that national dialogue concept was already captured as part of the agreement last year when the GNU was formed. If you read through that document, it makes it clear that there should be a national dialogue. So the president set a specific date. After our officers have engaged with the presidency about, when will this take place, he eventually called a date. But the problem is we have been waiting for funding, and there's a lot of controversy around the funding. Unfortunate, an amount of 700 million was put out into the public, and there was no, agreement. Treasury never agreed to 700 million, and that's quite unfortunate. And that money came hopelessly. I mean, there's an amount, I think 20 million that was made available to NEDLAC, but that money came too late. And secondly, there was no agreement between the representatives of the various foundations as well as people from presidency on agreeing to the format, on agreeing on the structure, and agreeing on the process. And there was quite, a lot of issues that remain unresolved. So last night, our representatives engaged with the presidency and says, please postpone it. Unfortunately, the presidency is committed to the date next week. And all that we say is this is not going to work out because it's ill-planned, it is not properly thought through, and we're going to sit with egg on our faces if this thing flops.
All right. Now, obviously, you've communicated that message with the president last night to say this is what we're going to say publicly today, right? I would take it, yeah?
Yes.
What did the presidency say then?
Well, obviously the president needs to respect our independence because I think it's very, very important that the foundations are not seen as lackeys of any political party. And we've emphasized the fact that this is not a process that is there to bolster the standing of any political party, and it should never be abused for political party purposes. This is really about South Africa. It's about how do we translate our constitution, our Bill of Rights that serve as a blueprint for our constitutional democracy.
Right. Let me put it this way. Now, I hear what you're saying, and interesting you made the point about the 700 million rand that's been spoken about, and you're saying Treasury turned that down, right? Because you mentioned the 20 million rands coming to being given to NEDLAC. So that means there's no money at this point in time, right?
Yeah, money was apparently transferred, and we're not, we've only learned about it yesterday. And that is problematic because,
And that, sorry, money was transferred from who to who then?
I think it was transferred, I'm not sure, whether it's from Treasury or the Presidency to NATLAC. But I mean,
okay, but only 20 million rands, right?
Something in 7 days.
Okay, got that. Now, what then, in terms of your position? So to confirm, none of the parties have actually withdrawn from the national dialogue in the way, for example, that the DA has withdrawn from the national dialogue. That's not the case, right?
No. We absolutely stay committed to the national dialogue process. And we have made it very clear that this should be a bottom-up process, not a top-down process that is governed now by the presidency and managed by the presidency. What we've said is, let's have a proper communication strategy. Let's have a full-time project office in place to communicate with the broader public in terms of mobilizing communities to elect the representatives, put out the educational strategy, empowerment strategy to train facilitators, because you need to have facilitators that will help communities to express themselves and formulate ideas, new ideas around how do they improve the situation at grassroots level. Because what do communities face? They face high levels of corruption. They face high levels of bad service delivery.
Let me ask you this then, right? There's been this, and it comes through, I think, part of the statement, that it appears that this national dialogue, as per the convention, has now shifted closer to government deciding as opposed to all of you. And I think you've made that very clear as well, right? Having said that, to then withdraw from the convention next week and the task team, now you do know there's many critics of the national dialogue who comment on this show, on the National Pulse daily, about like, what a waste of time, what a talk shop. How much money? I mean, what's going to come out of it? Nothing. Does this, and yet there is a need for a national dialogue anyway. Does this not give them the type of ammunition they need to say, can you see that? Critical legacy foundations like yours and many others are walking away from it. This puts the government or whoever initiated the national dialogue on the back foot.
Yes, because remember now, we need to get the distrust out of the way and the negative perceptions out there. And it's very important that the foundations, follow a strategy that will restore confidence in the national dialogue process, because it's important. But the big question is, a national dialogue is not about, talking about the challenges that we have. It's really about empowering communities so that communities, especially in light of the local elections next year, start taking control of issues at grassroots level and start holding those that abuse public funds, that do not deliver on services, that actually flees the state, to start holding them accountable.
Okay.
And that's why this is so critical.
Well, I want to find out what happens next, which we'll do right after this.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3 unforgettable days deep in the art and heart of jazz. From the 26th, 27th and 28th of September, Umu Sankare, Ababemu, Jasmia Horn, Silent Law and the Noisemakers, Najbonk Trio, Michelle Ndingio-Jello, Willem Siini, Gabby Mutuba, and over 50 world-class acts will be ready to welcome you and yours to 4 magnificent stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Take me there. Buy your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
It is time to experience spectacular football talent from 19 African nations. East Africa is on full vibration. From Tanzania, Kenya to Uganda, the pitch personnel are hungry for continental glory. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Witness Chan 2024 on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 from 2 to 30 August 2025. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, I'm going to open the lines like in a couple of minutes, so you can call in right now. 086 000 2032, WhatsApp, text or voice note, 0614 104 107, and you can tweet as well with the hashtag the National Pulse. We're chatting to Christo van der Rede, the Executive Director at the F.W. de Klerk Foundation. And we're going to wrap up this conversation about what happens next. So what happens next now? So at this point in time, a decision has been made by the 7 legacy groups, right? What are the eminent persons who are part of this process? What do they say about it?
Well, I informed Rolf Meyer. He is co-leader of the Eminent Persons Group. I've also said to him, first and foremost, the money that was supposed to be made available for the communication strategy has not been deposited. Remember now, you need to have money to put adverts together, to communicate via the media, print media, radios, television, etc. None of that has happened thus far. And secondly, you need to have a proper logistic plan in place to make sure that people are able to attend the planned convention at UNISA. None of that has been put in place. Invitations must be extended, and a whole host of things need to happen. Now, what we have said is that a national dialogue shouldn't cost the state any money, because it must really be driven by communities. But you need a bit of a budget, a small budget, for the national event and perhaps other events, especially, as I've said, communication through the media, etc.
Okay.
And so we will have a press conference, I think, next Monday, to explain our position and perhaps to come with a more clearer way forward.
Okay. Just conclusion then. I know there's a presser coming on Monday, but as it stands now, what is your expectation in terms of what happens next with the 7 legacy foundation groups?
The 7 legacy foundations will continue with our work, even if it means that we'll have to have our own, way of dealing with the national dialogue, and put a process in place that will really capture the imagination of people out there, because people are fed up with corruption, with poor service delivery, with crime, and I think it's time that communities be empowered to take charge of their own futures and destinies, and that's what we want to do and assist them with.
Okay, I expect lots of speculation over the weekend in the weekend papers, but we'll certainly hear you at the press briefing on Monday. Christo van der Rede, the Executive Director of the F.W. de Klerk Foundation. Much appreciate your time. And the context to all of that is that 7 foundations, including the F.W. de Klerk Foundation, but not just them, including the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, the Steve Biko Foundation, and go through many others too, have withdrawn not from the national dialogue, but certainly from the task team, and then the actual convention that will kickstart the process next week, Friday, 1 week from today. Right, let me hear you. You're on the pulse, aren't you?
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Okay, you absolutely must have an opinion on this, so come on, get it off your chest.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I'm fine too. Listen, for me, it is neither here nor there. Whether the foundations, be it F.W. de Klerk, Helen Suzman, Nelson Mandela, Steve Biko, whatever, if they've withdrawn from the dialogue, what is this national dialogue going to achieve? What about us, the people on the ground? I mean, a poor man living in a rural Limpopo, how is his voice going to be heard at that dialogue? This dialogue is about the elite. Cyril Ramaphosa just want to enrich his elites. That's all, with the government money, which is already being depleted. We know our problems. No, they cannot just waste our time.
Yeah, okay,
Please.
I hear you. I think you've made your point.
The
question is not whether, if it's a waste, it's a waste.
One of those things.
All right, I got that.
Anyway, that's me.
Thank you for that. So that's one.
Have a lovely afternoon, and as well as a weekend. Bye.
All right. Got that? I mean, that's where we hear that in terms of total waste. But I think the question is those who are supportive of it, what do you feel about it too? And then do you think something dramatic has happened here? Impo in Randfontein, go for it.
No, thank you very much. I think the withdrawal, I also think is not fair. I'll tell you why I don't think so. I think they were part of the agreement that there's a need for a national dialogue. But I sometimes suspect that grouping that still want to protect white supremacy and white privilege. And if there's any other
But
platform
import,
that-
just to confirm, they haven't withdrawn from the national dialogue.
But why can't they continue?
No, they haven't withdrawn from the national dialogue. They've withdrawn from next week's national convention. Let's call it like the big event that launches the national dialogue. They've withdrawn from that. That's
Isn't
what
that
it
part of the national dialogue?
It
Because
absolutely,
they are-
it is, yes.
if they say they're withdrawing from that one, would that impact the whole conversation?
Well,
and the
that
dialogue
is my
in the
point. It's like saying we're not withdrawing from the World Cup, but we're not going to be there at the opening ceremony. Something along that line, if that makes any sense to you.
Because, and they know that, I mean, these are key people. I'll tell you why. Because for us to create a non-racial society, you need structures like the one to be part and say, yeah, the issues. But if they withdraw at the verge of it, because if they raise money issues, can they go to that convention and say, this money is too much, let's withdraw? They can bring suggestions in that convention.
Okay.
But if they withdraw it, then it kills the whole mission.
All right,
Then-
I hear you. Well, they're saying they're not withdrawing at all, but they're just not happy with the processes
But
right
you see,
now.
they already started to say, if it doesn't happen, we will create our own alternative dialogue. So it means they have an agenda outside the bigger agenda.
But did they say that? I missed that.
Yes, they did say that. If it says we will have to see how we deal with our own on the side. So it means that they have a parallel process.
All right, I'll check that up and let's see what happens. Thanks for that. Thanks for that call, Import. Let's get to Mariam in Pretoria. Hello, Mariam.
Hello, Mary.
Mariam, how are you? Live on the National Pulse. Mariam's gone. Love to have heard what you said. Do call in if you can ASAP because I need to hear what you have to say about the national dialogue.
Ashraf and the SFM listener. Ashraf, I don't know whether maybe what is going on into the black and colored society, whereby like whenever they convening the meeting or whatever, there's always a police or a security, to vanguard them, just to check whether maybe they will misbehave or they will behave. I don't know. It's not easy to find them, taking care of themselves. There might be the security, taking care of them. Just to check. Can't we just changing and starting to behave?
Okay, I'm trying to understand fully what you mean, but let's hang on to that. Here's another comment.
Ashraf, good afternoon. Flores here from the Western Cape. I'm happy for the outcome of the court's decision about Edgar Lungu. This is or was an unprecedented case where a family wanted a former president to be buried here, and I think South Africa knew that would have soured relationship with Zambia if our courts had to decide that the family can have their way and burying the former statesman here. So yeah, happy that it all worked out. Have a great show. Bye-bye.
Okay, got that. Thank you. Right, more to come. Of course, we'll get further reaction from you on the national dialogue and the fact that 7 foundations have withdrawn from the task team now and that first national convention on Friday. What are the implications of all of that? We need to get a further response from the presidency, I would think. But right now, let's get the news headlines. Here's Kolofelo Tefu.
Thank you, Ashraf. Good afternoon. Transport Minister Barbara Creecy has announced the appointment of an interim board at the Road Accident Fund. This comes after the state-owned entity's board was dissolved following persistent governance and operational challenges that have beset the institution. A manhunt is underway for unknown number of suspect who shot and killed 2 police officers near Roodepoort, west of Johannesburg. And beyond the borders, Aid workers say more than 60,000 people have been displaced in a new wave of fighting in northern Mozambique, and half of them are children. I'll have details at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N1 northbound in Pretoria, slow moving towards Rigel Avenue. And the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on both routes towards Gilulis Interchange. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary truck reported before Hammersdale. The M7 has truck congestion reported at South Coast Road, so expect delays. And Umgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound queuing approaching Okavango Road. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Kromboom Road exit and Victoria Road outbound, slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
My Chumi is wearing a
Are you jealous there?
She's wearing a football top of a club. I didn't know she would. Well,
I wear
You
all
wanna-
club jerseys.
Oh, you wear.
I
So
wear
it doesn't
all
mean you
club
support
jerseys.
Sundowns, right?
No, not
Oh, okay.
necessarily. I
She's-
mean, the other day I was wearing an Orlando Pirates jersey.
She's
Today I'm
wearing
wearing
a
Mamelodi
Sundowns top. The bottom line, she's
The
saying
away
if you
kit
give
is
the
other.
top to her, she will wear it.
Yep.
So all the other clubs and the new club from the Bloom Celtic new club,
I will
Siwelela,
literally wear it.
bring it on, green
Yeah.
and white.
I'm
Okay.
wearing the away kit. It's the white one with blue printing on it. It's the new one. And maybe next week I'll wear the yellow, the home
Okay.
kit.
All
But
right. There we are.
it's beautiful. I wear all club kits. But a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Let's start things off with football. South Africa kick off their African Nations Championship campaign this afternoon. And that's against Algeria in Uganda. This will be a massive fixture for both teams in their bid to advance from Group C, which also has co-hosts Uganda, Guinea and Niger. Bafana will be playing catch-up with some teams already underway in the tournament. Bafana head coach in the Chan tournament, Molefi Ntseki, says that he's under no illusions that they are in a very tough group, and opening matches in Group C have proven that.
And we are just not talking about Algeria having won their first game. We are also talking about Algeria being the defending champions. So I think in our group, it's a difficult one because we have the defending champions and the host. So we'll always give respect to our opponents. And in us giving respect to our opponents, it's competition, and we are here to compete and to do our best and represent our country. And hopefully everything works out for us. And then we stay in this tournament until the last day. And the last day, we will be the one hoisting the trophy.
Meanwhile, Swelele FC coach Luhlolo Siema has slammed down reports suggesting that he's rebuilding the team ahead of their Betway Premiership opener. The club was revived following SuperSport United's sale of their top flight status. And while a few players left after the transition, Siema managed to retain the core of the squad in preparation for the 2025-26 campaign. Swelele begin their season at home against Golden Arrows at the Dr. Molemela Stadium tomorrow night, with Siema insisting that it's business as usual.
You can see it's I think it's the best time of Free State people and football lovers, and they will see the best of the team that is supported and our standard players, that we just need to make sure that we match that energy that will be there. If there's something that is go by, I still have goosebumps now when we went to Bloemfontein to get unveiled. It was unbelievable. And the players here, we are working very hard. And I wasn't joking when I say we're still trying to find each other. We definitely working hard, and we want to make sure that we give our supporters a very, very good opening game in Bloemfontein.
I can't wait to see how they're going to perform this season. Elsewhere, Chelsea centre-back Levi Colwill is set to miss most of the new season. This is after suffering an ACL injury in training. The England international underwent successful surgery on the injury, and according to Chelsea, it typically takes some 6 to 9 months for a player to recover from an ACL injury and return to action. In motorsport, as we know that tomorrow we're commemorating Women's Day, well, the Zwartkops Raceway will be hosting an all-female action-packed races tomorrow. This is with a pink-themed event in celebration of women in motorsport. One of the key races will be Power Monosporto Ladies Race that will feature two current national champs rivalries. That is Tyler Robinson of Astron Energy Polo Cup and Simpiwe Mohlahlo, who competes in the MSA 4 Championship. Now, they'll be competing with 17 other females in a 5-lap race in various single-seaters, and the facility will also host training workshop for women pursuing a career in the motorsport media industry. Meanwhile, in rugby, 4 high-profile Springboks have reportedly committed to the new R360 Global Franchise League, which is a breakaway competition set to shake up the rugby calendar from 2026. The 12th franchise tournament aims to recruit top 300 male and female players in the world, and it will launch in September next year. And according to Telegraph Sport, R360 has already secured around 160 men on legally binding pre-contracts, most of whom have played Test rugby in the past year. And the 4 contracted box have not been named yet, but the group reportedly does not include Chaslin Colby, who is eyeing a return to South Africa from his Japanese side. Then in tennis, all eyes will definitely be on Canadian teenager Victoria Mboko at the US Open. This is after her stunning Canadian Open triumph. She beat former world number 1 Naomi Osaka in the final, and that was after she beat Grand Slam champions Elena Rybakina, Coco Gauff, and top seed Sofia Kenin in the earlier rounds. And the crazy part, Ashraf, about this 18-year-old is that she started this year outside of the top 300.
Crazy.
And right now it's projected that she's going to jump from 85th to 24th, with all eyes waiting to see if she's going to be seeded at the Flushing Meadows. 18 years
Incredible.
old.
And I have lots of family who lives in Canada.
Yeah.
So they're going on. I see every Instagram post of theirs is like, that's our player.
Right?
Amazing. Yeah.
I really can't wait to see what the future holds for her, but it's very
Now,
exciting.
if she gave you one of her tops, you would wear that too. Right?
Definitely. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
The boardroom heat is on and the pressure is rising. The Insurance Apprentice, hosted by the one and only Babi Moloi, is delivering drama, tough decisions, and big personalities every week. Expect bold moves, emotional twists, and contestants you'll either root for or roast. And yes, you'll be surprised what you learn about insurance along the way. Open up to the Insurance Apprentice, Thursdays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All. We honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
I'm looking at a couple of tweets, one of them from Mashudu saying, "Hi Ashraf, you even interrupted the voice note." I think I did it in error, quite honestly. I think even Keys reminded me. Because it was so long, because normally we don't have them more than 30 seconds. That was like 50 seconds. So my mind is almost thinking it's a caller, seriously. So yeah, I interrupted the voice note, but the person was repeating himself. I'm just making the point. Yeah, we all make mistakes, right? So let's get on to another issue. SABC Radio Marketing has once again come to us and asking you, in fact, to announce this launch of a new self-registration platform. Vendors wishing to do business with SABC can self-register on our internally developed, SABC platform, right? So vendors are able to access this platform on our website, which is sabc.co.za/SABC/under e-tenders, or self-register at e-tender.sabc.co.za. You got that, e-tender at sabc.co.za, and then follow the prompts. Visit SABC social media pages as well if you need to know more details.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, by the way, we've got a fascinating guest coming up after 5 o'clock. You know, on a Friday we have this fireside chat, right? So who do you think we're going to talk to? Someone who's done lots of things, who's been critical of former President Zuma, who's been a different political parties, who's been an author, an activist, and involved in some significant organizations too. I'll tell you about her just now, but maybe you can guess who I'm referring to. From KZN, just so that you know, right? In the meantime, the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria has ruled that the body of the former Zambian President Edgar Lungu be repatriated to his home country for burial. You know that story. There's been so much debate about that, right? Now, remember, following his death from an undisclosed illness, the family, his family, wanted to be in charge of the funeral arrangements, and therefore wanted him to be buried in South Africa. But the Zambian authorities, well, they took control, or they sought to take control. So what actually has happened here? Let's talk to Dr. Charles Sinkala, who's a political analyst and international relations consultant. Dr. Sinkala, good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me, and good afternoon to listeners.
Thank you. Now, first things first, I mean, the Gauteng High Court in South Africa ruling that the body of the former president has to be repatriated. Does that surprise you, or was that expected from your side?
That has not surprised me. You know, looking at in the consideration that the precedents in Zambia has been set both on common law and as well as the practice. We've had almost 4 or 5 presidents who has died, and the state has taken possession of the state ship, and this was something quite odd, you know, for family to decide that they should bury the former president in South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite odd. Let's just go back. Why would they have felt it was that important that he not be buried in his home country?
We have challenges in Africa, especially in our country, Zambia, where succession has been a problem. You know, political rivals has been dominating people's minds. You know, where they
pause, Dr. Sinkala. Let me just pause for a moment. We just want to reconnect with you, which we'll do right after this.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, we're going to reconnect with Dr. Sinkala in just a second. It just gives you a chance to remember that we'll be talking to other stakeholders about some of the big issues, including, of course, I want to hear what you feel about 7 legacy foundation groupings have withdrawn their participation from the task team preparing for the National Convention of the National Dialogue. You got that? The National Convention of the National Dialogue, which takes place next week, Friday. How significant is that? Right, Dr. Sinkala, we got you back on. I was asking you that question about, what would motivate that family of Edgar Lungu to actually want him to be buried outside of Zambia? What would be the factors then?
The political rivals has been a challenge. You know, past his death on the 5th of June this year, you know, there was an agreement that the body will be repatriated back to South Africa. Has that been, back to Zambia? Has that been the tradition? But ultimately, when the body was supposed to be dispatched, in fact, the family applied for an export permit to export the remains of the former president. I think there was a change of the contractual agreement. That's why the judgment this morning indicates that there was a written contractual agreement where both parties signed, the government and the representative of the family, which they abandoned. Whether or not the head of state in Zambia should attend the funeral is something that has to be determined by the courts of law in Zambia. But the main issue, what was decided, or the argument, is that the state funeral, which the president declared, insisted that the president shouldn't be there, you know, and it is quite something, you know, out of building a castles in the air, where the family is asking the head of state not to be part of a state funeral, or rather to have the state funeral hosted in South Africa.
Unless they are seen as adversaries, then would be understandable.
Yes, even if it will be to that extent. But, you know, one must understand that when you're a former head of state and government, dignitaries will come from all over the world, and those they will be received by the sitting president. whether they had a beef between the former president and the current president. I think those issues of self-interest should have been put aside, to pursue the public interest. That's why the president of Zambia was advised, I think, to an extent. He also had to sit back and see if the family is going to come back to the government, to continue the process of state funeral. But they almost had to go ahead, on the day to bury in South Africa, as a burial arrangement were made already. And that injunction was made by the Attorney General to stop that. And I think looking at bilateral relationship between South Africa and the international relations, also the international law, it was something that the courts of law in South Africa cannot allow that the burial could have taken place in South Africa.
Yeah, I think that's the key part, that, in fact, this was part of Zambian protocol, and I hear that the acting judge, President Aubrey Ledwaba, delivering that ruling saying, and I'm quoting, "This is a matter of national dignity. As a former head of state, President Lungu's burial must reflect Zambia's protocol and honour his service to the nation." So in fact, from a South African perspective, there's a sense that we cannot counter what is considered the norm in that country, right? In Zambia.
Indeed. That is exactly what the president has mentioned. The consideration, the judgment was short and brief. I think he hit the nail on the head. It was quite emotional in the court when I stood there. But I think from the look of things, I hear the family wants to appeal that, which they've got that privilege to appeal to the Supreme High Court, and as well they can go to the Constitutional Court. But I think once this settles, I think they will be advised that no, let's just do the state funeral in Zambia. One has to also understand that after the death, the government engaged the family, as it has always been the norm, and the president of Zambia declared the funeral as a state funeral. And that declaration is actually law. And for anyone to uphold or rescind that decision has to be done through the courts of law in Zambia and not in South Africa. So they can't make a U-turn after the declaration has been done.
Yeah, you said you expect them to appeal. Were you able to speak to any of the family members today?
When I was coming out of the High Court in Pretoria, I was interviewed by News Africa Channel, and they mentioned that they also interviewed the family, of the late president, and they indicated that they will appeal. They asked me what would have been my opinion, and to that effect, I mentioned that they're at liberty. The law in South Africa allows for appeal if they are not happy with the judgment. But as this settles dust, today passes, we hope for the best that this shall bring reunion and unity in the country Zambia. That political interest and self-interest must be considered, but set aside in the national and public interest.
Well, let's leave it at that. Appreciate you sharing your insights, Dr. Charles Sinkala, who's a political analyst and international relations consultant. And that's after the Gauteng High Court ruled that the body of the former Zambian President Edgar Lungu be repatriated so that it can be buried in his home country. This effectively against the wishes of his family, but consistent with the protocols of Zambia. Right. What about you? Are you from Zambia, or you're South African with a connection to Zambia? Anything you'd like to add to that? I'll certainly take your comments and calls too. There's a story about child labor that I think you need to pay attention to right after this.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
Bafana are confident they can defeat the West Africans. Meanwhile, the national elephants want to step their foot down and walk away with victory. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Be part of the thrilling action. South Africa clashes with Guinea on Monday, 11 August at 4 p.m. Live at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
James, congrats on the babies.
Yeah, thanks. It's a wild ride.
You're a new dad, 2 babies, 0 sleep, and 1 car that apparently couldn't cope.
Yeah, the hatchback was my baby, but it just didn't have enough space for my 2 new babies.
And are you happy with the price when you sold to WeBuyCars?
Very. We've even got some extra cash to splurge on one of those fancy prams that you basically need a license for.
Good luck, James. WeBuyCars. Geared for family, geared for you.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, so, the issue of child labor is a global issue, right? And therefore a global challenge affecting millions of children around the world, including South Africa. But to what extent does that happen in South Africa? Now, today, the Department of Employment and Labor is commemorating the 2025 National Day Against Child Labor in the Northwest Province. The event seeks to raise awareness of the adverse effects of child labor on the education of children as well as their health. Let's find out more about it with Teminkosi Imkalipi, who's the DDG for Labor Policy and Industrial Relations at the Department of Employment and Labor. Much appreciate your time, DDG. Thanks for connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, and thank you to your listeners.
Yeah. Firstly, let's talk about the numbers. Child labor in South Africa, to what extent is it prevalent? Do you have numbers and versus the rest of the world?
On the extent of child labor. The last report, which was issued 4 years ago, and they do this report every 4 years, said that there were about 571,000 children who are at work. That was the last report. They are busy now with the current report for the last 4 years, and they're going to be issuing a report next year, 2026, covering the last 4 years. But the numbers I'm talking about are years before that. Around about 8 years ago. Now they will be giving us a report for the last 4 years, and we hope with all the process and the conferences that we've had and the enforcement that there will be a reduction in the numbers, but we'll wait for that.
Okay. What then is the plan today in terms of your campaign in the Northwest Province? What are you trying to achieve?
Well, in terms of the plan, we're having this Child Labor Day to try and have a discussion and awareness campaign with parents, with employers, the children themselves, talk about the effect of children having to work at a young age and not having ability to grow up as children and not have the ability to learn, because if they work interfere with their time for school, they can't concentrate to school because they are working very hard, work that they needed to do. But also remember, the law does not prohibit any work for children. Children are allowed to work. Children who are above 18 are allowed to work, and those who are above 15, even smaller children are allowed to work. Remember, you are in the media industry, you know that it shows like Generation and others in the film industry do feature children, and that's work. And for them to be working under those conditions, there are special arrangements that have been made, and there's a sectoral declaration published by the minister on how those children should be involved and what it should not affect. Therefore, the law does not say children should not work at all, but there are working arrangements. You can't put children to work in the mine and those kind of industries where their life would be a danger. But the most important thing is that whatever work children are doing, it should not affect their ability to be children. They should be able to play. They should be able to continue with their studies and education. Anything that affects their ability to do those things, that is to study, to do their homework. Even if you ask your children to go and fetch water, let us assume you're not staying in Johannesburg, you stay in the rural areas, and the water you have to go long distances to fetch water. And children now take that and they carry big buckets. When they come back, they are very tired. They are not able to prepare for school. That's work. although they don't get paid. You don't have to be paid to be in employment in terms of child labor.
So what percentage? I mean, thanks for explaining that you actually can work you can have child labor, but there's issues about the controls, right? But what percentage of children, say in South Africa, that do work have been prejudiced to such a degree that it could be that form of employment is considered illegal? You know, as you said, they can't work in a mine, and let's say they are, for example, then that would be out. So what percentage and what numbers are we talking about?
The numbers that I've given, it's workers, it's children that are working where they should not be working.
Okay.
Or the 571 is all those workers, those children who are involved in the world of work where they should not be. It does not count those that, as I've said, like small children who act in a scene in generation because there's a scene of the mother giving birth and then the child shown in the scene. That's not that part, the 571. 571 is all those children that are working in areas and industries under conditions that they should not be working. First, they are underage, and secondly, this is a very dangerous area that they're working in.
Okay, well, there we are. Thank you for your time, Temi Nkosi Mkhaliphi, the DDG for Labour Policy and Industrial Relations at the Department of Employment and Labour. And this links to the 2025 National Day Against Child Labour in the Northwest Province. So certainly your thoughts on that are welcome. Here's a comment, Ashraf. It's really disturbing when bona fide white South Africans having input in issues, then the term supremacist always comes up. Yet Nigerians are influential in many issues in South Africa while they are foreigners. It's disgusting. Thabo, Soweto. Where does it come, Thabo, where you can say the term supremacist always comes up? Like you said, supremacist always comes up. You know, always means always. Really? I don't know. But maybe you know more than I do. I don't. I really don't. Here we are.
Hi, Ashraf. Errol, from Durban. Hope you're well, my friend. Yeah, look, I've always said that national dialogue would be a waste of time and money. I mean, that's 40 million rand or whatever it's going to cost, could be put through to more important things, especially now that we have tariffs and sanctions applied against us. Yeah, that's my take. Errol, Durban.
Okay, got that, Errol. There's more comments. There's many people who want to talk about the national dialogue and what's just happened. I'll tell you who we're going to have as the fireside chat in a moment, but let's get to the news first. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Kolofellow.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories this hour. Ramaphosa responds to the withdrawal of legacy foundations and over 60,000 displaced in Mozambique. Good afternoon. President Cyril Ramaphosa says the National Convention scheduled to start on the 15th of this month will go ahead with or without the participation of prominent national legacy foundations. Ramaphosa was responding to questions regarding the public notice of withdrawal from the process of such foundations as the Thabo Mbeki, Steve Biko, Chief Albert Luthuli and F.W. de Klerk foundations. They cite the erosion of citizen leadership, a rushed timeline and a lack of financial and operation infrastructure and reasons for their non-attendance, or rather as reasons for their non-attendance. The President was speaking on the sidelines of the launch of an extension of the Zekerbosch water treatment plant in Vereeniging today. He says the first meeting of the convention will not deal with substantive issues, but rather map out the process and choose a steering committee.
So in the end, there is no difference about substantive issues. It is peripheral issues that should never make anyone want to go and jump off a tall building. That should never give anyone indigestion. These are matters that are going to be properly ironed out as we move on. So in the end, the withdrawal of the foundations is not a train smash. The dialogue is going to go ahead.
Transport Minister Barbara Creecy has announced the appointment of an interim board at the Road Accident Fund. This comes after the state-owned entity's board was dissolved following persistent governance and operational challenges that have beset the institution. The interim board will be in place for a period of 6 months or until a new board is appointed. The agency has in recent times been entangled in protracted and costly litigation on the application of accounting standards with the Auditor General's office. Another instability that attracted uncertainty at management level was the suspension of CEO Collins Letswalo. Creecy elaborates.
Last night, myself and Deputy Minister had the opportunity to meet with the interim board and to share with them current governance challenges at the Road Accident Fund and to request them to address deficiencies in governance and control systems, including frequent incurrences of default judgments against the Road Accident Fund. We stressed that the interim board must initiate a process of filling vacant executive positions that are critical to the mandate of the fund.
A manhunt is underway for a unknown number of suspects who shot and killed 2 police officers near Roodepoort, west of Johannesburg. The officers who were stationed at the Florida police station were transporting a business robbery suspect from court to Boksburg prison when they came under fire. 2 firearms belonging to the officers were taken while their vehicle was found dumped meters away from the crime scene. Gauteng police spokesperson Mavela Masondo.
As for now, we are not sure if they were killed by the very same suspect or whether there are other suspects that are involved. But what we can confirm is that the firearms of the police officers were taken and the suspect then drove with the police vehicle after the shooting. But the car was later found abandoned a few kilometers from here.
The Young Communist League in the Free State has called for the removal of CEO of Mangaung Metro Power Utilities Sentlek, Malefane Sekoboto. YCLSA convener in the province, Kwezi Mohwang, says under Sekoboto's leadership, the power utility has been marred with instability and financial mismanagement. The SACP led a community march to the Sentlek buildings in Bloemfontein to hand over a memorandum of demands. Mohwang says they are marching against corruption, nepotism and victimization of workers within the power utility.
The first one is to give affordable electricity prices for the communities, to expand access to electricity for all, end victimization of the workers, nepotism involving hiring of friends and relatives, the reinstatement of all unfairly dismissed employees by Sentlek, SIU and forensic investigation of awarded tenders, electricity collection, alleged nepotism, corruption and continued financial mismanagement.
Still in the Free State, the G20 Cultural Diplomacy Roadshow has started in earnest in Bloemfontein to showcase the power of culture in fostering international exchanges between partners. Mangaung Metro Mayor Gregory Nthatisi says it's appropriate to have the launch in Bloemfontein because of its rich history being central in the country. The G20 delegation was taken on a historical journey that highlights the life and legacy of the late struggle icon and president of ANC, Oliver Tambo, in whose honor the provincial government building is named. They also visited the Makufe Cultural Village, where the delegation experienced a display of arts, music and traditional performances. Later this afternoon, delegates will participate in an investment and roundtable discussion. And finally, beyond our borders, aid workers say more than 60,000 people have been displaced in a new wave of fighting in northern Mozambique, and half of them are children. The BBC's Shanghai Nyoka reports.
A recent surge in heavy fighting in Cabo Delgado has uprooted nearly 60,000 people, half of whom are believed to be children. Some have been separated from their families. Save the Children said that in one district, armed groups targeted homes, police stations and schools with reports of looting. The impact of the 8-year conflict has been devastating to children, some of who have witnessed beheadings and been at risk of exploitation, child marriage and recruitment into non-state armed groups.
The top story this hour, President Cyril Ramaphosa says the National Convention scheduled to start on the 15th of this month will go ahead with or without the participation of prominent national legacy foundations. Headlines at 4:30 for SAFM News. I'm Kolofelo Tefo.
In sports this hour, Bafana Bafana in action and Chan opener against Algeria. Kaizer Chiefs coach set to miss the opening clash, and Kutza reflects on an outstanding month in the pool. More details at 4:30.
The boys of Benny McCarthy, Harambee Stars, have a mammoth task to stop the North Africans. Meanwhile, the Atlas Lions refuse to shake and break. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Catch Kenya versus Morocco, the Sunday 10 August at 2 p.m. Live at your fingertips on SABC+. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N17 eastbound in Boksburg, queuing on the off-ramp to Rondebolt Road exit. In Pretoria, Eskemperleli Drive northbound has delays towards Moot Street and traffic lights not working at multiple junctions in Garsfontein, Linwood and the surrounds, so expect delays. In KZN, the N3 westbound in Hillcrest has a stationary truck before Shongweni exit, the N3 westbound a stationary truck before Hammersdale, and the N3 eastbound queuing towards Keyridge. In Cape Town, Duval Road eastbound in Southfield, slow moving towards the M5 Prince George Drive, Stellenbosch Artiel Road eastbound in Kells River, slow moving at Nooinsfontein Road, and Strand Road eastbound in Stickland, slow moving towards the R300 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so I did tell you we've got I think a fascinating guest for the fireside chat today. And that's Dr. Makosi Khoza, who, as you know, South African politician, author, social activist, done lots of things. A very, very colourful career, I may add. So we're going to talk to her from 5 to 6 p.m. And I wonder what's your one question that you'd like to put to her if you get the opportunity. Maybe I can do it on your behalf at least, right? Let's, however, move on to another issue regarding Tebogo Malaka, very much a person in the news, the Independent Development Trust CEO, right? Let's bring in Ayanda Jele, who's the Malaka Family Trust spokesperson. Ayanda, good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much for having us, and good day to the listeners.
Thank you. Now, of course, before we get moving, I'm going to read the statement, or parts of it anyway, that's been issued by the Malaka Family Trust. It says the Malaka Family Trust stands firmly with Ms. Tebogo Malaka in response to the defamatory allegations published by the Daily Maverick and the ongoing political campaign to remove her from the IDT, the Independent Development Trust. These attacks are not grounded in truth, but in a calculated effort to replace her with a politically aligned figure. Let us be clear. Ms. Malaka did not offer a bribe, did not suggest one, and did not take out or authorize any money. The cash in question was produced by the IDT spokesperson, not Ms. Malaka. She did not invite the journalist, did not know him prior to the meeting, and did not select the venue or arrange the meeting. This was a trap, engineered by others and designed to entrap her, which raises the most critical unanswered question: who set up the hidden cameras and why? The public deserves to know who orchestrated this recording and whether it was done legally, ethically, or as part of a political operation. And then making the point, in law there is no such offence as intending to bribe, especially when no offer was made, no agreement was reached, no money changed hands. Edited video and innuendo are not evidence. They are tactics of defamation. There's more. I'm not going to read through all of that. Ayanda, I mean, of course you stand by that statement, right? What informs, from a family trust point of view, your confidence in what you've just said about Tebogo Malaka?
We've been witnessing since last year, since the appointment of the minister, a concentrated campaign to have her removed. Obviously, we understand from a political point of view that when the Democratic Alliance would have negotiated for the departments, and they were very clear that all departments that they are going to take over, they must have their own director generals, and if there are entities in those departments, the leadership, the higher leadership must be people that they would have facilitated for employment or deployment in this case. So the ANC would have not budged to that request, and they kept the DGs and CEOs of most entities that are under the DA-run ministries. So then, because they did not have their way then, and they started a campaign. So the campaign has been ongoing since the appointment of the minister. Okay. So hence we're saying that it's political, because it did not only start with the meeting that the CEO would have had with the said journalist. So hence we said, no, it's a politically driven campaign that has been sustained for months or a year now, if I'm not mistaken. So hence we also believe that this is part of a political ploy to have her removed, and the DA will deploy a cadre that is linked to the Democratic Alliance.
So, how would the DA be in a position to make that deployment if you're saying it's politically motivated? And what gives them that power?
Obviously, if you would have followed, the minister brought back board members who were previously mostly dismissed by the former minister of the State Department, Minister Sihle Zikalala. So obviously, through the board, they are confident that they will be able to replace CEO Malaka with a CEO who's linked to their political party or to them. So and we are saying this because there's been a newly appointed board, which is we believe that it's a board that reports directly to the ministry in process, and also reports directly to the Democratic Alliance. Hence, we also believe that they want their own CEO and they want gone as soon as possible.
So why are you so convinced that this entire video was doctored and effectively the person you represent, she comes across scot-free, she was not part of a bribe. If it was the other person that was mentioned, and she knew nothing, she was effectively naive about it, even though she's the CEO of an important organization like the Independent Development Trust?
Obviously, the CEO was briefed by the spokesperson in this regard, Mr. Mkholane, that there is a meeting arranged for her to give her side of the story to the journalist who's been running a campaign against the CEO. So obviously, as any human being, you'll want to put an end on a campaign that's against your name by putting your own version of events. So when she got there, she delivered her request for this campaign to stop against her, and she delivered her side of the story. Only to find out that there was a trap. It's a trap. If you're going to arrange a meeting, agree or choose a sport where you're going to be able to put up cameras, put up recording devices, obviously you are trapping that individual to make a mistake. But in this regard, the CEO did not make any mistake, and we are on record.
Okay.
Even on the video, on the edited video, you can see that she did not take any monies out of herself. She did not present any monies to the journalist. After the monies were taken pictures of and were rejected, she did not take the monies back to herself.
Okay, what then is her narrative of what actually happened? She was not part of it, but she was there. So what actually happened in terms of her understanding?
She's going to come out and speak for herself when the time is right. But from where we are as a family, through a brief, we are on record that she did not present any monies. She did not try to bribe the journalist.
Okay, well, and when will she speak for herself?
We hope soon.
Like next week? Monday, Sunday? When?
I'm not too sure, but we hope it will be very soon.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Ayanda Jele, the Malaka Family Trust spokesperson, appreciate your time. They, in fact, have issued a statement that the CEO of the Independent Development Trust, Tebogo Malaka, one of the two people implicated in this huge Daily Maverick story, and it's all been videoed of a trap to accept a bribe or to offer a bribe and well, not accept it, but that was the plan anyway. That's the story. But the family of Tebogo Malaka now saying that did not happen to her. She was set up. She was not involved. She did not offer a bribe at all. And if that's the case, she cannot be found guilty of anything. But the important one here is saying that this entire campaign has been politically motivated. Are you convinced about that? If so, I'd love to know. You can call in 086 000 2032 and then send us a WhatsApp. 30 seconds maximum, please. 0614 104 107.
Chipolopolo of Zambia is chasing victory. However, the Portuguese-speaking team Angola have a serious mandate to secure 3 points. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Experience Zambia versus Angola the Sunday 10 August at 5 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89 followed by your name to 41391 and stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, lots to consider. Let's move on to another issue. We've already heard about one CEO. Here's another. The South African Music Rights Organization, SAMRO, right? Well, there's a sense of a rot there. There's allegations now of nepotism and power abuse that has surfaced against the board chairperson, Nicholas Maweni. Let's find out more about it with Dr. Sibongile Vilakazi, who's the SAMRO board member, chair of the Social and Ethics Committee. Dr. Vilakazi, good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm very good indeed, thank you. But not on a good news day for you, isn't it? It's not the type of conversation you'd like to be having anyway, right? Perhaps give us some context here. What is the issue?
Yeah, Ashraf, it almost feels like, there's a death in the family. That feeling of feeling heavy, that, oh my God, what is going on? Because I'm sure you would have seen that these allegations are coming from our COO, who's currently being suspended. And then as a result of that suspension, we are seeing all of these stories that seem to be surfacing in the media. Which is so unfortunate, especially because it's Women's Month. We were hoping that in Women's Month we'll be celebrating our all-women executive team and taking calls to be celebrating all the milestones that they have achieved. But now here we are. We have to discuss something terrible that seems to be happening in the organization.
So let's take it a step back. I mean, you're saying the CEO has been suspended. Why has the CEO been suspended?
So we have suspicions of wrongdoing that we need to investigate, and but obviously we have to follow the processes, and we don't assume that she's guilty. We are quite cognizant that we have to investigate thoroughly and satisfy ourselves that there's no wrongdoing that has happened on her part. Essentially, it's a conflict that we are hoping that it will be resolved speedily.
Okay, now in the meantime, that's one aspect. Then there's been accusations, right? Tell me about the levels of accusations we're talking about here. What are they?
Yeah, so I mean, if you read the article, you will see, I mean, clearly. So the allegation is that the chairperson forwarded a CV to somebody in the team, the operations team, and because of that CV, therefore there's nepotism happening. I mean, if you read that, you can immediately tell that it doesn't make sense, because it happens all the time that sometimes you meet people, different people, when they hear that, oh, you work for this organization, or you sit on the board of this organization, they tell you, I was trying to reach out to so-and-so, can you please assist me? And they hand you whatever it is. Sometimes it's a CV, sometimes it's a proposal, whatever it is. And all you do is just forward it to the relevant person. And that relevant person will then take over. Whatever they do with that information is up to them. As a board, our role is governance. It's not to get involved in the operations. When you forward things, you just forward it and it ends there. And in this case, it was a CV that was forwarded, and that individual was not even part of the shortlisting and all of that, because the team that saw that CV, they realized that the person didn't meet the requirements for the job, and it ended there. For it now to be presented in the media as if the person was appointed and he knew the person personally and therefore it's nepotism, it's an incorrect reflection of the situation.
Yeah, I'm certainly looking at that now. So what happens next in this process? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to manage SAMRO, and there are individuals involved in this. The entire institute effectively has been undermined.
Yeah, no, it's actually terrible. We are feeling heavy that we have to deal with all of these issues, but we do have strong governance processes as an organization. The fact that we have a suspension at the moment speaks to that we know when we have a conflict, we have different ways of solving different conflicts. And this one is a type of conflict that required that there must be a suspension and there must be an investigation. And then whatever comes out of that investigation then will determine the way forward. But as an organization, we are stable. We've got very strong governance systems in place. So we are happy with that. We are just heavy-hearted that we have to deal with these kind of issues, especially at this time of the year, where we're supposed to be celebrating, because there's so much good work that our team has done, especially as an all-female team that we are so proud of, historic achievement for the organization. And we were really expecting that we will show even other companies that are thinking about making these decisions, that women can actually run an organization, work well together, and achieve all the results that they need to be achieving. So this is just something that has disappointed us briefly, but hopefully it will be resolved speedily.
Okay, and I mean, what would be for you let's call it a win-win resolving of the issues?
Yeah, I think it's just understanding where the conflict comes from. Why are we having these issues, and how can they be best resolved? And best resolved sometimes doesn't always mean that you will get exactly what you were hoping for, but it must be best resolved in the interest of the organization, because ultimately we are all here to be serving SAMRO. So whatever it will be in the best interest of the organization will be a win for all of us.
Okay, let's leave it at that and let's see what happens next. Thank you for your time. The SAMRO board member and chair of the Social Ethics Committee, Dr. Sibongile Vilakazi. Thanks for your time here on the National Pulse.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, let's get further comments from you. In fact, here's one that's very topical. We just chatted about it.
Ashraf Gada, it's Yalezo here in Kumbu. I'm sorry, Ashraf. I don't know why you are giving these people airtime to come and defend the indefensible on public radio. This is actually nonsense. That lady tried to bribe that journalist. There's no argument about that. Yes, South Africa is a joke, really.
So from our side, what should we do? Like, if they've issued a statement denying it, should we then deny them that right? She's not yet convicted, right? Or has she? Something that maybe I don't know. Let's get to Active Citizen in Polokwane. Hello.
Ashraf, good afternoon.
Yeah, good talking to you. Go for it.
I just want to give my advice to the former CEO, the suspended CEO, that if she's going to follow the advice from the family, which is trying to say she did not offer any bribe to any person, she'll be actually making matters worse for herself. And I want to give two examples with Oscar Pistorius. Oscar Pistorius did something that was obvious, but he wasted a lot of money trying to defend his case, but still he went to jail. And even Jacob Zuma tried the same. So I want to ask her, the sister, the former CEO, to say she must go and do what is called the plea bargaining with the NPA, with the NPA, admit guilty, and then and cooperate, go to jail and serve a sentence and come back. At least you'll come back from prison with money, because otherwise if she's going to challenge the NPA in court, believe you me, it is going to cost her millions of rands to get defended. And at the end of the day, she's still gonna be found guilty and sentenced. So she can make things very easy. Get into a plea bargain, plead guilty. In one day, the following day you get sentenced, you serve your term, and you come back.
Okay, got that. Well, there you are. I said Active Citizen providing free legal service on air. I wonder if your advice will be taken. It's an interesting take that you make. You basically saying, start on the basis of accepting that you're guilty, and then to the plea bargaining, and then you may get off really on a very, very light sentence. But that starts on the premise that you had committed that crime. Although they no bribery at all. Thank you. Interesting one indeed. Pumzile, let's hear your thoughts from Humansdorp. Go ahead, Pumzile.
Thanks, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm good indeed, and there's so much happening. We're trying to keep pace, man, but I'm fine.
Ashraf, I've got I don't doubt the spokesperson from the family trust. I don't doubt them an inch. Here are my reasons. The so-called bribe would have happened to a journalist by the suspended CEO. Why is the case not opened at the police by the journalist? Why is the case opened by the Minister Macpherson? Because the victim here, or the person directly embroiled in the matter or affected by the matter, is the journalist. Now, we did not hear from any national newsroom reporting that the journalist has actually opened a case. Unless I've missed it, you can correct me, Ashraf.
Okay.
You see, if that is the case, lastly, if that is the case, and the journalist has been actually used for a trap, I mean, I'm very worried about his integrity and his good standing as a journalist. He has definitely compromised. I'm saying if it happens that he has been used by a politician to trap the suspended CEO.
All right, let's try and get an update on that. I mean, interesting point you make about, why would the journalist not do so? Well, let me just get my mind right on that one there, and maybe just get an update on that story in terms of who did what. We know about the minister compared to the journalist, and may ask that question. So, Pumzila, thank you for that. Interesting one. Did the journalist, in this case, actually lay a charge versus did the minister lay a charge? And if not the journalist, why not the journalist? Is the journalist an aggrieved party in this issue? Think about it. After Ashraf, Muntu is my name. It's very worrying that some black South Africans are seared by the liberation struggle propaganda. What I mean is Cyril is anti-white and redressing injustices of the past is questionable. Where does it begin and end? Is pre-1994 until when? Okay, that's a bit of a conundrum. Think about that too. Let's get to the news headlines. It's 4:30 years caller fellow.
Thank you, Ashraf. Good afternoon. And indeed, so much happening in the news today. The Lungu family, through its lawyers, have filed papers seeking leave to appeal the Gauteng High Court's judgment, which found that the Zambian government is entitled to repatriate former Zambian President Edgar Lungu for the purposes of a state funeral and burial. President Cyril Ramaphosa says the National Convention, scheduled to start on the 15th of this month, will go ahead with or without the participation of prominent national legacy foundations. And further, field UN officials have held talks with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which has been widely criticized for its food distribution efforts in recent months in the Gaza Strip. Greg Coase has the details at 5.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Pretoria, slow moving towards Rigel Avenue. The N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on both routes towards Giluli's interchange. In KZN, the M7 is where truck congestion is reported at South Coast Road, so expect delays, and the N3 eastbound queuing towards Key Ridge. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit and the N2 outbound queuing through Somerset West. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Khapele.
To me, so you're wearing a Sundowns top because they seem to be winning a lot, but you're not wearing a Bafana top because they are losing.
Unfortunately, we're starting off with football on the go. African Nations Championship. Bafana currently facing Algeria. And 33 minutes into the game, Algeria is already leading 1-0. They scored in the 29th minute. We'll definitely keep a close eye on that one as the game goes on. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs coach Nasruddin Nabi is set to miss the opening clash against Stellenbosch FC on Sunday in the Betway Premiership. The club has stated that a critical accident happened to his wife, which will lead him to travel to his home in Tunisia this evening to be with his family. The coach will return to South Africa once that situation has been resolved. Meanwhile, Sekhukhune United coach Eric Tinkler has hinted that there will be more players exiting in the coming week after signing 14 new players. Tinkler is aiming to work with a smaller group of players as they prepare for the start of the 2025-26 season. With silverware in mind, the coach wants to ensure that deserving players get more game time.
I think we're working on it. It's a work in process. We brought in 14 new faces. I think we've strengthened the squad. I think we have a little bit more depth in the squad. We're still looking to cut a few because I think the squad is too big. It needs to be cut. But I think the fact that we've done well against TS Galaxy, it gives us the opportunity now leading into the Pirates game, which is a massive game away from home, and it's given me that opportunity to gauge where we are collectively as a squad.
Well, don't forget that the Betway Premiership officially starts tomorrow. Mamelodi Sundowns visiting Chippa United, while Amazulu hosts Orbit College. Richards Bay will host Marumo Gallants, and Magezi FC will welcome Polokwane City. All matches kick off at 3 p.m. Then 5:30, Orlando Pirates will face Sekhukhune United, while Siwelele will host Golden Arrows at 8 p.m. Elsewhere, Manchester United have finally confirmed, Ashraf, that now they have agreed to sign Benjamin Sesko on a 5-year contract. It's actually a done deal. So yes, yesterday you were right. Now they've confirmed it fully on. He's a Manchester United player, and the deal breaks down to an initial 66.3 million pounds, which is around 1.5 billion rand, and around 7.37 million pounds in performance-related add-ons. Now, Sesko is set to do his Man United medical and will be formally presented at Old Trafford tomorrow. So we are yet to see.
And I've just heard that, it's a great signing. Complete rebuilding of the forward line, like complete. And I also heard, there's been debates about what's the goalkeeper's name? I forget his name. Onana. And I can assure you, as part of the plans, that De Gea will be in action at Old Trafford tomorrow.
Ooh, interesting.
He's playing against them. for Fiorentina. So you will be there.
Absolutely.
What a change.
What a change. Let's move on to swimming. South Africa's rising swimming star, Peter Kutze, is impressed with how the season went for him. The 21-year-old gave performances at the World Student Games in Germany and the World Aquatics Championships in Singapore. And in Singapore, he came back home with 3 medals: gold in the 100-meter backstroke and silver in both 250-meter backstroke, making finals in all 3 events. And he has described winning gold on the global stage and becoming world champion a dream come true.
Yes, no, it was a very successful few weeks. I think it set me up very nicely to go to Germany first. I was there with my friends, people I train with every day, and I don't always get to do that a lot. So I think that just was a lot of fun, and there wasn't a lot of pressure on me, so I was able to race and just have a lot of fun every day. And then I just had to reset after that and go straight to Singapore without tiring myself out too much or thinking about it too much. I think the main thing I was trying to do is just to let it happen, because the work has been done, and just one extra week of competition before wasn't going to change that. So I tried to reinforce that, and yeah, it was amazing. I think it went better than I could have ever expected, especially to get a gold and finally be a world champion, because that's something that I've always knew I will do eventually, but to now finally reach that, it's a relief.
Just quickly looking at that Bafana versus Algeria game, 38 minutes in, Algeria still leading 1-0. I'll have more in the next hour.
Right, perfect.
Taifa Stars want to capitalize on home ground advantage, but the Baria want to illustrate that they have character to win on foreign soil. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Witness Tanzania versus Madagascar this Saturday, 9 August at 7 p.m. Live everywhere, for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, with me, KG Mweketi.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Well, those numbers is Paswane Mpatlele from Makwe Fund Managers. Give us all the updates, Paswane, locally and globally.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Happy Friday to everyone. Well, Ashraf, today the South African, through the AGM of the SAB, the governor has indicated locally that they expect still an increase in inflation, but it is temporary, as they expect inflation to come back to 3% in the medium term. This has generally increased the probability that markets will continue to manage stagflation risks in the short term before benefiting from healthy levels of inflation with a rising growth. Globally, we're seeing world food prices are at their highest since 2023, as they increased by 1.6% due to the likes of food and vegetables oils rising. And generally, when we look at investors, they continue to digest the different tariffs uncertainties, the latest being reporting from the Financial Times that gold bars are on the list, and the gold future prices hit all-time highs. When we look at the spot price of gold price, it still holds bullish momentum at $3,390 an ounce, up 0.1%. And markets generally are just, there's a consensus of investors discounting future growth, as the earnings are looking good in the US, and some of the local counters, and Russia and the US are working to find a peace deal with regards to Ukraine. This sees the likes of oil prices down 0.7 at $65.80 60 cents a barrel, being bearish, and the likes of the dollar is back on weakness than what we've seen in recent times, where it saw some bullish momentum. Stocks hold higher. We see the likes of U.S. indexes such as the S&P and Nasdaq up 0.7%, Dow up 0.6%. Europe only CAC hold gains up 0.3%, with FTSE and DAX flat. JSE is also seeing flat for today, down as industrials are down 0.3% and financials up 0.2%, and resource counters are flat. The rand holds its gains, sitting at 17.73 against the dollar, 20.67 against the euro, and 23.83 against the pound.
All right. Perfect. Thanks for that, Paswani. You have a magic weekend, and we will connect with your team on Monday.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So do not forget, I've been looking at some of the notes about my guest coming up as part of the Friday Fireside Chat, Dr. Makosi Khoza. I wonder what you'd like to ask her. Remember, she asked in Parliament, President Zuma at the time, like, call it a day. She did lots of things. We'll talk to her. Malusi in Polokwane, let's talk to you now. Go for it. Malusi, hi.
Yes, can you hear me?
I certainly can, right? Go for it. What's your point?
Yes, Ashraf, I just wanted to talk about I'm dismayed when the president is defending the apartheid cases that were referred by Truth and Reconciliation Commission to NPA to prosecute. Even President Ramaphosa is defending that. What is the ANC hiding? What are they concealing? Because now they're denying the victims the justice for 30 years. My regret today is that I once voted for the ANC, who now defend apartheid guys who committed crime, and apartheid, remember, was declared a crime against humanity. But now Vusi Pikoli, was it Vusi Pikoli, the NPA head, who was fired because of those things? He wanted to take the cases to NPA. Where are we sitting in the country when the the former president, are defending crimes against humanity?
So what would you like the president to say about this?
Allow the cases to continue so that the court will exonerate those who are not guilty, and those who are guilty, the law take its course, because no one is above the law.
Okay. You've made your point very, very clearly and articulately, and clearly someone who's very angry and disappointed about the president, as Malusi sees it, as a president defending past atrocities in Mbuyisa, rather, in Ladysmith. Right, let's get your thoughts. Hello.
Ashraf, how are you?
I'm good indeed. Lungu is what you're talking about, right? Yeah.
You know what? I'm so disappointed with our judiciary.
Yeah.
You know what, Ashraf? It is said that now the courts are used as a political tool. And allow me to say that in the case of Lungu, it is an open secret that actually we know that even for him to get a medical attention in South Africa, he have to sneak because of the American compound, and they couldn't take him out of the plane. But he was not allowed to come to South Africa for medical attention. And it is, again, the view of the family that had it not been for the government of Zambia to disallow Lungu to come to South Africa for medical attention, Lungu could have still be alive. But now this is the very same government endorsed by the court to say that take the body to Zambia and their family does not have any say about it. What is that? What is that? I mean, Lungu's children don't have any say. You look at the social media here in Facebook, you see the government, the officials of Zimbabwe, they are posing for photos, smiling. I mean, claiming a victory on the corpse of someone they did not actually allow him to come to South Africa for medical attention. I believe that the court there.
But I mean, look, let me just interject you. I mean, I hear what you're saying about and why he's here and the family, but ultimately, what the court has weighed is the family's views versus what is the protocol of another country, and effectively they've sided with the protocol of another country. Now that's the part we can contest. to say, do we have any right?
But now the protocol is not law. That actually here we are dealing with Lungu who was stripped of the parliamentary benefits. So it cannot be partial. Lungu was an ordinary citizen, was living like an ordinary citizen of Zambia. He's the one who was footing his bill here, medical bill in South Africa. All I'm saying, Ashraf, is that sometimes the decisions of the court, really they leave much to be desired. Because this matter, I believe, that could have been dealt with politically, but for the matter to be dealt with in the political, legal way, I believe the court erred there, because my understanding is that Lungu's wife has a final say. If Lungu's wife was not there, Lungu's children, imagine, Ashraf, now SABC is telling you that because you have served SABC for more than 40 years, then the family don't have any say, you'll be buried SABC's way. When in fact, it can't be. Okay. So the family, Lungu's family was not respected here. But I'm happy, I'm relieved that they are taking the matter to the Supreme Court.
They're going to appeal, yeah. Okay, let's leave it at that. Mbuyisa, thank you for that. That may surprise you, that ruling indeed. I mean, are you surprised by that, by the Gauteng High Court ruling in favour, effectively, of Zambia versus the family's decision to bury the former leader of Zambia, Lungu, in fact, in South Africa, where the protocols in Zambia say that a former leader must be buried in that country? Tebogo in Joburg, go for it.
Yes, thank you, Ashraf, for giving me an opportunity.
Thank
I
you.
want to respond and speak on the Samro matter.
Yes, okay, right.
So, first of all, I would like to make a special appeal. Please give us members an opportunity to do the same an interview, just like you've given the Samro board chair, committee chair an opportunity.
So just to confirm, what's the difference between the chair and say a member? What's a SAMRO member, just so that we're clear?
The SAMRO member is supposed to be the owner of SAMRO. That woman that you were speaking to accounts to us. She's supposed to account to us, not to come on radio and lie to the South African public.
So where is she lied? Tell me.
She lies because of they have suspended the COO because of she's exposing the shenanigans. I can tell you, Ashraf, without a shadow of a doubt, 90% of that board is so compromised. And we as members, we are going to remove them. We are going to dissolve that board.
How are you going to do that?
We're going to vote them out. We're going to dissolve that board at the meeting. She didn't tell you, by the way, that they are dodging the bullet. We're supposed to have a follow-up extraordinary general meeting end of August. Guess what they do? They take it virtually. They are so scared of their shenanigans, but we're going to never allow them to dodge the bullet. I'll tell you, in the last extraordinary general meeting, we removed 3 corrupt board members from SAMRO. That was only the beginning.
Okay, so just to recap, the last thing before I let you go, I mean, you're stating your case too. Explain to us, maybe in a minute, where exactly the problem is, who's doing what and who's not doing what in SAMRO.
It's simple. It's corruption, maladministration, and corruption all the way. Let me just state a few things quickly within this minute. One, they are most of the board members are implicated in the forensic report, which they have commissioned themselves with the executive. The CEO is complicit in all of that. They are refusing to release that report to us as members, and hence we are going to fire them. Number 2, they have stopped members receiving what we call the NRR, is the royalties distribution that we used to get every year based on the fact that you are a SAMRO member. They are disadvantaging members. We've got 2 senior managers who have spent $1 million between the 2 of them studying MBA at the expense of members. Musicians are dying as paupers in this country. They can't even educate themselves. But SAMRO executives and board members are benefiting from our royalties. It cannot be. We will not let it go.
All right. Okay, let's leave it at that. You stated your case, and if we need to have the conversation further, maybe just connect with Keys, my producer, or Temba. Let's see if we can follow it up. If there's more details that we need to pursue on this issue. Tebogo, but thanks for enlightening us. In fact, I tell you what, leave your details with Keys. I think it's very important we connect with you. This is the National Pulse.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, I need to hear your calls. Don't forget, we're going to have a chat with Makosi Khoza coming up after 5 o'clock. Fireside chat for an hour, right? There's certainly more reaction on the IDT case.
It's Pumlani and Deep Kloof. I just listened now to your interview with the spokesperson of the Malaka family. And you should have asked Ashraf, why was then the CEO requesting time with the journalist one-on-one and then mentioning about her parents being old and all that? And also you should have asked the bag that the man was taken from, does it belong to her or the male spokesperson? Because it looks like a feminine bag. Yeah, I really, this is really sad that this family has allowed itself to be dragged by one family member into this. It's very sad and shameful.
Well, look, in terms of asking them, they've already denied everything, saying zero. And they can't talk for her. They said she may talk next week. Then we'll talk to her about that when we get the chance. But for now, a bag can be feminine looking, doesn't mean it belongs to a female. Not when you're doing the type of business that they were doing. Think about it.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. You know that CEO that's denying a bribe. Please tell me how a CEO of a government organization flies down to Cape Town to meet with someone she doesn't know about something she doesn't know. Then she sits there, discusses a whole lot of things, tells the guy to leave. He comes back with a whole lot of money. She sits there as if she doesn't know what's going on. No exclamation, what's this, what's going on, or anything like that. And she discusses her own family home in Waterfall and things like that, saying that she wants it to go away. Now, come on. Was this a setup, or was the organization and everything coming from her side? Mark from Cape Town.
Wow. Listen, there's 1,000 questions that need answers, or 1,000 answers we are looking for on that issue. You are right. You meet anybody, like who I do it. I meet people daily. And I ask them up front, like, just give me some perspective. Who are you and what's on the agenda? Yeah?
Hi, Bra Asha, and good afternoon to the listeners as well. I just want to confirm here, man. Is it true that another MK member is resigning, going to Maibuye? I remember I said there's no future at MK. Move one by one.
Well, listen, the story is that MK has sacked their officially their former Secretary General, who just happens to be Floyd Shivambu. I mean, he's already gone, but now they've officially kicked him out. So I'm not too sure whether you're talking about that person. But he, interesting enough, yesterday made a point that a lot of the disruptions at Parliament were done by Julius Malema on a women offence done by decree. He decided, and it was done.
Ashraf, I think the black people must stop these things of doing corruption and blame the whites as if they are influenced by the whites or the whites are wrong. That is nonsense. We've been misled for so many years by these people, maybe blaming the whites, whereas the whites didn't do nothing. We're going to vote for the white people to be in power so that they can see how to run government effectively. My name is Les.
But when you say we are going to vote, that's like, who do you speak on behalf of, Les? I mean, you can say I'm going to vote, and that's clearly your prerogative. But we?
Hi, Ashraf. CBS and KBA. Are you allowed to chuckle a little bit or laugh? Because the answers from that spokesperson, if it was me, I was going to chuckle a little bit or laugh. Because
now you're making me laugh. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, now I'm laughing too. Well, there you are. Okay. Listen, let's see. I mean, they did say she will talk next week or sometime soon. What will she say?
Hi, Ashraf. It's KG here from African. One question. Whose prerogative is it to organize and to execute the national dialogue? If it is the government or the presidency, then these other groups, where do they get the mandate to even contest what the presidency is organizing?
Well, look, for what I know, it's the president who's called it up. But maybe that's precisely the point. They themselves, if you look at that press statement, are unclear about so many things. 7 organizations, including the FW, the Clerk one, they're unsure about so many things. They also say there's no money, 20 million rand given. It's clearly not enough. How can you even set up the National Convention now when what we should be doing is getting into the grassroots? So it's an interesting one they're doing. And the president, by the way, is saying, although that these 7 organizations will not be there, that the plans for the convention, which is like the big opening ceremony, really, that's the way to understand it, of the national dialogue, will go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. This is Mbongo Sundisa. Mr. Ashraf, I would like to say to the Malaka family, Aibu, we are not kids, please. Thanks.
Okay, and we are not kids, and there's another one on that.
Ashraf, good afternoon to you and your listeners. I'm disappointed that you are not pushing back when Tebogo says the DA agreed that with the ANC that they were going to put people that were aligned to the DA. That is pure lies. It's not anywhere in the statement of intent with the GNU, for the GNU partners. There's no such. Please push back a little when people come on air and deceive us as listeners. Thank you so much. You are speaking to Durban, Anonymous in Durban. Thank you.
Well, thanks for that, Anonymous. In fact, to a degree, I said, you saying it's a political ploy by the DA. So how do you know that? And he's not going to say more. He's like, we just know. How do you know that? Then he's like saying, we just convinced. So you think he's going to say any more? I mean, I hear you, but is he going to say any more?
Afternoon, Ashraf. The foundation did right. People don't understand why these foundations are withdrawing. The government has failed. Now people want to come with a solution. The same government that has failed want to bring the solutions, impose the solutions on the people, correcting wrong answers with wrong corrections. It's wrong. It must be for the people, not to ANC to give directives. Norman from Brixton.
Okay, Norman. But the president's saying they're going to go ahead no matter what. Now, what do you feel? The fact that this opening ceremony, this convention will take place next week, does that remove, you already see a lot of the power being removed, considering that 7 organizations haven't pulled out, but they pulled out of the opening convention, but they want to be completely part of the actual national dialogue. So they're on strike in a way, isn't it? What do you make of that? Think about it. I'll probably ask Makosi Koza as well about that too, right? It's 5 o'clock. She comes up next. Let's get the news now. Here's Greg House.
Thank you. Ashraf, child victim dies in hospital, and the UN hold talks with Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Good day to you. A 4-year-old girl from Eldorado Park south of Johannesburg who was in hospital after allegedly being beaten repeatedly and sexually assaulted by her father has died of her injuries. This has been confirmed by Gauteng police. Police say the docket has now been changed to murder, and an additional charge of rape has also been added. Her parents were arrested this week and appeared in court today. Puseletso Mokoena reports.
During her father's arrest on Wednesday, the little girl was found by the police on the bed with head injuries, bruises and swollen eye. She's been on life support at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital in Soweto. Both her parents were arrested and appeared in the Protea Magistrate Court today. The man is charged with attempted murder and rape, whilst the mother faces a charge of defeating the ends of justice. This means that the man will now be charged with murder. Puseletso Mokoena, SABC News.
The Justice and Constitutional Development Minister, Mameloko Kubai, says they'll intensify efforts to ensure that the Justice Cluster works effectively so that members of the public have faith in the justice system. She was speaking at Nembizo outside Zanin in Limpopo.
What we can say is that there is a need for us to intensify a coordinated approach of us as a cluster working together, not only at national, to provinces and to local, because you do find that as we go down, you find a bit of fragmented approach. So that's one of the areas that we have identified and what we want to improve in terms of the work. Here you're finding that quite a number of issues that communities are dealing with around gender-based violence. They are saying the issues that they have more, it's around at the court level. They were saying that they are able to deal with issues that relate to your family arrangement in terms of children.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says the National Convention, set to start on the 15th of August, will go ahead with or without the participation of prominent national legacy foundations. He was responding to questions regarding the public notice of withdrawal from the process of such foundations as the Thabo Mbeki, Steve Biko, Chief Albert Luthuli and F.W. de Klerk foundations. They cite the erosion of citizen leadership, a rushed timeline and a lack of financial and operational infrastructure and reasons for their non-attendance. The President says the first meeting of the convention will not deal with substantive issues, but rather map out the process and choose a steering committee.
So in the end, there is no difference about substantive issues. It is peripheral issues that should never make anyone want to go and jump off a tall building. That should never give anyone indigestion. These are matters that are going to be properly ironed out as we move on.
The family of the late former Zambian President Edgar Lungu, through its lawyers, have filed papers seeking leave to appeal at the Supreme Court of Appeal, arguing that the High Court in Pretoria made a series of errors. This follows the High Court's judgment, which found that the Zambian government is entitled to repatriate Lungu's remains for the purposes of a state funeral and burial. This latest development means that the repatriation process cannot begin yet until the appeal process is completed. UN officials have held talks with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which has been widely criticized for its food distribution efforts in recent months in Gaza. The BBC's Imogen Folks has more.
With famine reportedly spreading across the Strip, UN aid agencies are increasingly desperate to get supplies in. But the meeting with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is a big shift. The UN has repeatedly warned that GHF's aid distribution, during which hundreds of Palestinians have been shot, is dangerous, dehumanizing, and fails to help the most vulnerable. On Wednesday, the medical charity Doctors Without Borders produced a detailed report documenting deaths and injuries at GHF sites witnessed by its own medical teams.
Sharp story: a 4-year-old girl from Eldorado Park south of Johannesburg who was in hospital after allegedly being beaten repeatedly and sexually assaulted by her father has now died of her injuries. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khoes.
In sports this hour, Bafana level on 1-1 at halftime against Algeria in the African Nations Championship. Zwartkop Raceway to celebrate women in motorsport on Women's Day, and 4 Springboks signed for Rebel League. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in KZN, the M7 has truck congestion reported at South Coast Road, so expect delays, and the N3 eastbound queuing towards Key Ridge. In Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Pretoria, slow moving towards Rigel Avenue, and the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on both routes towards Giluli's interchange. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit, and the N2 outbound queuing through Somerset West. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 100-gram Danone Nutri-Day Smooth Yogurt 6-pack, buy any two for 32 Rand, plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 4 kg Spar IQF chicken, mixed portions for 159.99, plus 400 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Prices valid until 24 August 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
The Wild Beasts and the Elmo Rabbits both want to ease off pressure with victory, drama, and tension has kicked in. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Catch Central African Republic versus Mauritania this Saturday, 9 August at 4 p.m. Live at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, every Friday we have this Friday fireside chat. It does mean that some of the other conversations we've had, we put that on pause because we have a guest who spends an hour with us and we talk throughout the show, right? Besides breaks for news and sport, of course, right? And today my guest is Dr. Makhosi Khoza, who's, you would know the name, I would think. I just wonder, even as I talk about her, different people have different emotions when you just mention people's names. So if I told you that I'm chatting to Dr. Makhosi Khoza for the fireside chat, what comes through in your mind? Like, give me one word that best reflects and encapsulates your feelings about it, because I have no doubt that people have opinions about it. That's interesting compared to many others where you're like, I don't know, Anyway, let's go for it for the next hour or so. Dr. Makhosi Khoza, you're with us, of course, speaking to us from KZN. So much appreciate you connecting with us here on the Fireside Chat here on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, for having me.
Yeah, but it was not in person, but these things happen. But this is the second best or the next best option anyway. So thank you for your time, right? Let me start with this. It may sound like so cliched, but obviously it's Women's Month and Women's Day tomorrow. How does someone like yourself approach Women's Day?
Well, with me, it's time for reflection. I reflect a lot during this month. I also draw inspiration from women that came before me. In mind, I have women like Charlotte Maxeke, Helen Joseph, Fatima Mie. One of the books that I enjoyed reading about Fatima Mie is The Trial of Andrew Zondo. That was the first book I ever read when I was a teenager, and it stuck with me forever. So it's time for reflecting and for reassessing my role as a woman in society and what sort of impact I can make, positive impact I can make in my little way, So
it's interesting.
That's what it means to me.
But interesting you say your role as a woman, which is very different to saying my role in society. Do you see the difference between your role as a person versus your role as a woman?
Ashraf, on a daily basis, I'm constantly reminded that I am a woman. Even with how I was treated as a woman politician. How many other leaders have moved from one political party to the other? But when it was me, it was magnified. And constantly, I have to remind myself that my struggle is not only about, it's not only about a prosperous South Africa for all, but it's also about affirming myself as a woman. And I also have to understand that maybe the way I am treated, it's not different from women being used as a mode of transport, especially those that never had the opportunity like myself, education opportunities like myself, So really, the issues about women, I cannot forget. It's always in my subconscious mind that I am a woman. And the woman I am.
Okay, well, there you are. And what should South Africa as a country then take out of Women's Day, tomorrow?
I think South Africa should really be thinking about the role that women have played in building this country, notwithstanding all the nonsense that is going on right now. But if you remember that the precursor of 1955 was the charter, the Women's Charter, and most of the clauses that you find in the Freedom Charter that you hear most politicians talk about, most of them actually emanate from the Women's Charter of 1954. And I am saying we need to remember that the people who women played a major role in ending apartheid in this country. And I think women ought to be encouraged to take their rightful position in fixing South Africa, because I feel that at the moment, I think women are taking a back seat, especially because most of the political parties are largely led by men, and women are kind of playing that support role and not necessarily the leading role.
But does it mean that women need to be the leaders of a party? Keeping in mind, South Africa's representativity in Parliament for women is probably amongst the highest in the world, right? But you're saying no, in terms of if they're not the leaders, then they're still not leading.
Well, women, they may be there, but if you look at the whole political discourse in this country, let's just make a good example. When I stood up in Parliament and warned South Africa about corruption, ANC corruption, I had to break rank with my own political party that I was with for over 35 years. If you look at how harsh I was judged for leaving the ANC, you can tell. Whereas when men leave the ANC, it's of no consequence. They just leave. There is no problem, and they are just treated as normal human beings. But when you are a woman, somehow your mistakes are magnified.
Okay,
or your shortcomings or whatever they think. I don't know.
All right. There's so much that's already come through. But here's the other thing, just on Women's Day, then we'll move on, right? Should Women's Day be used, Women's Day, Women's Month, right? Should it be used as a celebratory day to reflect on the achievements of women, or should it actually be used as a galvanizer, a coming together of women to say, hold it, what's our project? What's our plan? Almost like a women's national dialogue type of thing to say, come on, this is where we are. This is where we need to be. And we're going to use this month and this day to get there.
I think it should be used for both. It should be used for both because I look at the courageous women that we've had in the past and how they navigated through a very, very hostile terrain. I mean, if you think of Charlotte Maxeke, for example, within the ANC, she played a major role in galvanizing support of women and so forth. But it wasn't until the 1940s, the ANC was formed in 1912, but it wasn't until 1940s that women were actually recognized as women, as people who can be leaders, as people who can be elected into NEC position, for example. So I think it should be both. We need to remember those gains that we've made, because it's very easy to forget the gains that we have made as women and focus only on galvanizing ourselves. It's very important that we do it, but we must not forget that we are standing on the shoulders of those women that came before us, who laid a firm foundation for us. In fact, it actually reminds us that as women leaders, we have a responsibility of creating that layer of leadership for future generation or current younger generations, so that they can also have something to draw from. Because like right now, as I speak to you, I can't speak about women's rights in South Africa without looking back at women across all racial, across all colors and whatever, and shades of skin color and so forth, or texture of hair. You know, I look at Ruth First. Those are women that motivated me all my life.
Well, let's do this, and I'm sure they will continue motivating you, as you may well motivate other people too, right? By the way, if you're listening in, if you want to call in, as always on the Fireside, we probably can't take more than 3 calls or WhatsApp comments anyway. So if you're up for it, go for it. 086 000 2032, then WhatsApp is 0614 104 107. You can tweet as well, which I can read, or even a text message, but reading on Twitter, just hashtag The National Pulse, tag me, Ashraf Garda, do tag SAFM Radio as well. So let's talk about what are you doing now? Like, what's your job?
Well, I am a businesswoman now. I mean, I actually thank those men that did not treat me well, because they reminded me that I was once an entrepreneur, not a tenderpreneur, mind you. I used to sell fried fish, and I'm now into property. I mean, I'm very proud of myself that I now have over 13 apartments, So I'm getting into that space. That's what I'm doing. I'm also advancing the language barrier. I'm also addressing the language barrier crisis that people are not addressing in South Africa. And it's a huge problem. And as long as we don't address the question of the language, we'll continue talking about inequalities, because language is not just a tool of communication.
So tell me about that.
It is your moral value system. It's all that. It's also your psychological makeup. It's everything.
So tell me about that. I mean, addressing this language barrier. What do you see is the problem, and how would you like to resolve it?
One of the things that I find very, very sad about this country, even if you were to take Disprin, it's like Bantu languages do not exist. I mean, we still have the apartheid language, 50-50 language policy, which was English and Afrikaans. Even the side effects of whatever medication or shelf medication, it's written in English and Afrikaans. And there are no African languages. And to me, it's a real indictment on us as a nation to say, how can we ignore the majority of the people, because the 9 official Bantu languages account for almost 75% of the population. How do you justify that? And Professor Kwesi says, no nation ever prospered on the basis of a borrowed language. And if you look in Africa, the reason why we continue to see poverty repeating itself everywhere, we are just breeding poverty. It's because you can see, if you go to DRC, the main language is going to be a French language. If you go to Mozambique, it's going to be Portuguese. If you come here in South Africa, it's English. But how many people actually speak English, proficiently? I'm not saying they shouldn't learn it. It's important as an international language. But there is power in actually thinking, owning the words that you speak and understanding the words that you talk, you pronounce on a daily basis.
Well, there's power in those words that you speak, as you've said, and that is powerful. More to come from the powerful Dr. Makhosi Khoza, who's done many things: politician, author, social activist, businesswoman, as you've just heard, 13 properties, 14 properties, maybe more to come here on continuing to chat to her on the National Pulse as part of the Friday Fireside Chat. I hope you're enjoying all of this.
September 5 is Casual Day. Time to get your Casual Day sticker and gear in support of persons with disabilities. Looking beyond the label, your contribution makes a tangible impact. Visit www.ncpd.org.za. Many thanks from the National Council of and for Persons with Disabilities.
This is an SABC-supported initiative.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Tani Esther, or should I say the Tupperware Tani? How's business going?
Business is booming. I've been operating out of the boot of my car for 10 years, but shame, it couldn't keep up with my growing empire.
Okay, so you sold it to We Buy Cars?
Yes, quick. Sold my old one, bought a bigger one. I even sold some of my Tupperware to the friendly guy who picked up my car.
Stick to what you know best, eh, Tani?
Excuse me?
Never mind. We Buy Cars. Geared for your business, geared for you.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, continue to chat to Dr. Makhosi Khoza as part of the Friday Fireside Chat. So, okay, where are you regarding politics? You've been with so many different parties. You yourself said so. It's like more like a football player moving from one to the other. Where are you now?
Well, I'm not in any political party. I haven't even been active on social media. I'm just enjoying a quieter life. I'm even going hiking every morning, and I'm even looking good, even in.
Oh, I think we've just lost connection there just for a moment, and that connection was lost just as Dr. Khoza said, and I'm looking good. So it's not like we took exception to that, not at all, right? Me, I'm looking good. We need to reconnect in a moment. Okay, by the way, chance for you, a couple of quick calls we're happy to take, particularly if you actually know Dr. Khoza. If you know Makhosi Khoza well, and you've, it's not exclusively so, but especially if you've worked with her, maybe you're related. I mean, that'd be great if you can say hi to her, either in politics or business, or part of that period when she effectively stood and spoke for the people against the ANC regarding corruption within that party. So let's do this. We'll reconnect in a moment.
Amidst misinformation and disinformation, where can we find reliable news? Turn to radio, your trusted source for truthful updates. For over 3 decades, we've upheld integrity as a signatory to the BCCSA Broadcasting Code of Conduct. Count on us for news you can trust. Say no to fake news. Radio, keeping it real since day one. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters. Tune in, trust, and stay informed.
Hi, I'm Zycard. Catch me every Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Spotlight as we bring you blow-by-blow sporting action, news. That's Spotlight every Saturday. You don't want to miss it.
These are the weekend shows on SAFM. Music of Africa with Sheila Ndikumana. The Weekend View with Bongiwe Zwane. The Jet Set Breakfast with Michelle Constant. Seasons with Khomotso KG Mweketsi. The Soundtrack of Your Life with Ernest Pillay. Weekend Sundowner Classics with Kutlwano Masote. Spotlight with Zai Khan. The Weekend with John Gerika. Shifting Your Lens with Bertha Charuma. This is SAFM. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, we do now have Dr. Makhosi Khoza back on the line. You can hear us now, right? We lost you for a moment or two.
Ashraf, you see, you are asking me questions that make computer sneeze. So you have to ask questions that are not going to create a problem for the computer.
Well, listen, the computer died. The computer died when you said, and I quote, "Me, I'm looking good," and that's when it died. So I don't know what to interpret from that, but anyway, you know what? There's a couple of WhatsApp voice notes we've got to play now. I want you to hear that, right? So here they are.
Okay.
Afternoon, Ashraf. I think the ANC have lost a great future woman president in her, and I just wish that maybe they can just apologize to her and specially recall her back to the ANC because she have a lot to offer to the ANC. Thanks, Ashraf.
Good evening, Ashraf. What I know about your guest there, Makhosi Khoza, he was an ANC member and he was fired by former President Jacob Zuma during his term. And then he decided to open his, her political party. So I was emotional the time she was fired by President Jacob Zuma. My name is Tavis from Mahal. And go!
Hi Ashraf, JJ Stakes Bridge. What I can say about Makhosi Khoza is honest patriot, defiant spirit.
Afternoon, Ashraf. You are with the great woman there, Umama Makhosi Khoza. I heard our president Cyril Ramaphosa complaining about 9 wasted years, but the funny part is, on that 9 wasted years, Cyril Ramaphosa was part of it, and when Mamu Makhosi rise against that 9 wasted years, they all bear their heads down as if they were not there. So there's nothing they can complain about. It's Paramani in Pine Town, Durban.
We have lots of comments, and there's also one via Twitter from Yakub Vahed saying, Ashraf, we need people like her in leadership positions. So there you are. I mean, there's a whole range of people who appreciate what you're doing. Sarah Downs saying, Dr. Khoza raising important points about language in South Africa. If you buy Medicide, side effects are in English and Afrikaans, and this applies to many things. This long into our democracy, we are perpetuating inequality in so many areas. Still continue speaking up, doctors. So, point made. Right, we're almost on to news time, but perhaps you may want to reflect on some of those comments, yeah?
What do you want me to say, Ashraf? Except to say I'm truly humbled by being appreciated by South Africans, and I will continue doing my part. And I now know that, you know, sometimes you have to understand that it's just about planting a seed, and other people will also come and nurture that seed. I'm very encouraged by young women like Katleho, you know, She has a podcast or a YouTube channel called Citizen Concern. She's absolutely fabulous, and I look up to her. She's my source of inspiration. And I said, oh my God, I'm glad there are other people occupying that space.
Well, there we are. I need to listen to that podcast. We'll talk about younger people just now. Now, I'll tell you what, we now have news and business and economics, which does mean that you've got like a 7-8 minute break. I'm just telling you that so you know. And then we'll speak to you on the home run of the Friday Fireside Chat. Yes, it's 5:30. Here's the news heads.
Quick look at the headlines. A 4-year-old girl from Eldorado Park, south of Johannesburg, who was in hospital after allegedly being beaten and sexually assaulted by her father, has died of her injuries. A suspected serial rapist has appeared in court outside Zanin in Limpopo, and the German government will not approve any exports to Israel of military equipment that could be used in Gaza until further notice. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in Melrose, slow moving towards Colette Drive, and traffic lights not working at multiple junctions in Garsfontein, Linwood and the surrounds in Pretoria, so expect delays. In KZN, the N3 westbound in Hillcrest, a stationary truck reported before Shongeni exit, and the N3 westbound, a stationary truck before Hammersdale. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound queuing as you approach Okavango Road and Stellenbosch Artiel Road eastbound in Kales River, slow moving at Nooinsfontein Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Khapele.
Right, Tumi's got her eye on Bafana Bafana.
Yes, the game is 73 minutes in, and right now we're sitting at 1-1 with Kutumela scoring in the 45th minute to level the score, and that is their Chan opener. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs will be without coach Nasruddin Nabi in their opening clash against Stellenbosch FC on Sunday in the Betway Premiership due to a family matter. The club announced on social media that a critical accident happened to Nabi's wife, which will lead him to travel to his home in Tunisia this evening to be with his family. The coach will return to South Africa only once that situation has been resolved. Meanwhile, the Betway Premiership officially starts tomorrow. Mamelodi Sundowns visiting Chippa United, while AmaZulu host Orbit College. Richards Bay will host Marumo Gallants, and Magezi will welcome Polokwane City. All matches kick off at 3 p.m. 5:30, Orlando Pirates will face Kukune United, while Siwelele will host Golden Arrows at 8 p.m. Meanwhile, Siwelele coach Luhlono Losiema says that the team only had 2 weeks preparations. However, they are not starting from scratch.
The good thing is not even a rebuilding per se. Maybe it's just to tweak here and there, especially in terms of the way we organize the team, the style of play. But the players have been there, they have played. So we still have experienced players that are there, and some of them have done a lot in their previous clubs. So it's not really a rebuilding phase, but I can say there will be some new faces that will be there, but I did not find it's a project that I'm excited with, and the way these 2 weeks that we have worked on, trust me, when you watch them on Saturday, you wouldn't believe that we have been working for 2 weeks.
In motorsport, as we commemorate Women's Day tomorrow, the Zwartkops Raceway will be hosting an all-female action-packed races tomorrow with a pink-themed event in celebration of women in motorsport. One of the key races will be Paba Monosport or Ladies Race that will feature 2 current national championship rivalries, Tyler Robinson of the Astron Energy Polo Cup and Simpue Mohlahlo, who competes in the MSA4 Championship, and they'll be competing with 17 other females in a 5-lap race in various single-seaters. The facility will also host training workshop for women pursuing a career in the motorsport media industry. And a happy Women's Day to all the women for tomorrow. In rugby, 4 high-profile Springboks have reportedly committed to the new R360 Global Franchise League, a breakaway competition set to shake up the rugby calendar. From next year, the 12 franchise tournament aims to recruit top 300 male and female players in the world and launch in September 2026. And according to Telegraph Sport, R360 has already secured around 160 men on legally binding pre-contracts, and most of whom have played Test rugby in the past year. Meanwhile, in tennis, Ben Shelton came from a set down to beat Karen Khachanov and claimed his first ever Canadian Open title. The American won by 3 sets, 6-7, 6-4, 7-6 to become the youngest American man to win a Masters 1000 since former world number one Andy Roddick at Miami in 2004. Ashraf, before I leave predictions for this evening,
quick ones, go for it,
this weekend, and I'm looking at the Betway Premiership. Starting off with Chippa United versus Sundowns. Amazulu versus Orbit College. I think it's going to be a draw. Richards Bay versus Maruma Gallants. I think Richards Bay. Orlando Pirates, Kukuni United, Pirates, and Siwelele versus Arrows. Because it's going to be at the home of Siwelele and their first game, I think Siwelele is going to win this one.
Okay, so that's your 5, all in one sport.
So I've had
the league has started.
I've had an intern this week, right?
Yeah.
She was helping me with these predictions.
Okay.
She feels like Amazulu is going to beat Orbit College, but we'll wait and see. I think it's going to be a draw.
Okay, well, listen to the interns. They could well be your boss one day. You
know?
never know. Yeah.
Well,
all right, that's it.
With that said,
Right. Here we are. She's going to post a Mamelodi Sundowns top on Twitter so we can retweet it in the hope that another club will come on and say, come on, wear my top soon. Yeah, you never know. Right, let's get to, thanks for that, Tumi. Let's get to, we're going to get to business now.
Chipolopolo of Zambia is chasing victory. However, the Portuguese-speaking team Angola have a serious mandate to secure 3 points. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Experience Zambia versus Angola this Sunday, 10 August at 5 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All, we honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
More with Makosi Khoza coming up in a moment. But Jimmy Moyaha, your last update for the markets this week. What have you got?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. I'm pleased to say that we're closing out the week in good space in terms of the rand. 17 rand 72 against the US dollar, 23.80 against the British pound, 20.67 against the euro, and 11.56 against the Australian dollar. The all share continued to have a good day with a second straight consecutive day closing above 100,000 points, up about 0.1%. The top 40 up 0.1%. Resources the biggest driver on the day, up 2/3%. Financials 0.25% to the green. Industrials down about 0.1%, but we take the win on the equity markets, given that international equity markets were by and large in the red. Asian markets were all in the red with the exception of the Nikkei in Tokyo, and European markets were in the red with the exception of the CAC 40 in France. US markets are in the green at the moment. The S&P and the Nasdaq both up more than 0.5%, and that's going to continue into evening trade. The quick look at commodities before we go. The gold price, $3,391 a fine ounce, back towards that 3,400 level that we saw it reach a little earlier in the week. Brent crude, $66.24 a barrel, much better than $70 a barrel that we saw a couple of days ago, or at least a couple of weeks ago. Platinum and palladium having softer days, but still platinum above $1,300, $1,342 a fine ounce, and palladium $1,145. So we take the win going into the weekend. It is a much better weekend close or a weekly close this week than it was this time last week. And given that this is despite the fact that the tariffs have officially come into effect, this means that markets are receiving all of the other news more positively. And we'll have to keep an eye out for some U.S. developments and see how that's going to continue to shape markets going into next week. And obviously, those weekend things that typically move markets. But for now, we take the win going into the weekend. Back to you, Ashraf.
Well, take the win. I hear that often, right? Thanks for that, Jimmy. We will connect with you on Monday. Have a have a magic winning weekend, I would think, right? We do have a winner with us in studio, Makosi Khoza. We'll talk to her more in a moment.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, so we after that break, we're now back with Makosi Khoza. We go up to 6 o'clock. So we stopped when you gave the shout out to the young podcaster, Katlego, yeah? And let me pick up on that even further in terms of, is there a person that you'd like to take out to lunch that you haven't yet done so, but like...
Actually, I would love to take Vusi Thembekwayo.
There we are.
I think he would make a phenomenal president.
He's been
you know what I like about
politics,
him, Ashraf?
maybe, yeah.
Huh?
He's
You know
been
what
trying.
I like about him? He said something so profound. He said he made a correct diagnosis of Africa's problem. He says in Africa, we tend to elect leaders that have never created anything. And when you look back and you look at our own reality, that's very true. You know, we elect leaders that have never created anything, and we hope they can create something for us. And when that fails, we get frustrated and we get angry, you know? And I think if we were to have a president, just figure that out. I would love to have dinner with Vusi Thembekwayo. Maybe I could persuade him to consider. I will campaign 24/7 for him.
I'm gonna tweet about that, and hopefully you guys will make that connection. And maybe I'll just pitch up there just to serve you guys. You never know, right? You know, strange things happen. What about, so in terms of books? I mean, you mentioned the book from who was it? Up front, you mentioned Fatima Mir, right? Early on,
Professor Kwesi.
Yeah. Okay, that was the one. Are there other books? I mean, you've also written your own books, right? Just tell me about them.
Yeah. Well, I've just finished reading a book by a Nigerian author called A Girl with a Louding Voice. In fact, that book reminds me so much of myself because I think I've had a very loud voice. But of course, now I'm taking a back seat, I'm retreating and I'm reflecting and I'm having time to read those type of books. There is a book of mine that's going to be coming out, this year as well, which is entitled Visions of a Rebellious Woman.
I thought you were talking about visions of a country, visions of a rebellious woman. So what are the visions of a rebellious woman?
It's Visions of a Rebellious Woman. It's quite an interesting book, I must tell you. Because that's how I was looked at as being rebellious. And people never really looked at some of the people, not everybody, of course. I mean, within the ANC, I was looked at as being rebellious. When the truth is, there is so much you can do within when everything else fails within the organization. I was very disciplined for 35 years, but I was concerned that the country was going to get to the stage that we are at now. And that is why I was left with no other option but to take it to the social media and start criticizing them.
So the first time you decided that you're going to be rebellious, let's call it that, right? How much thought did you give it?
Pardon?
How much thought did you give?
Well, the first time, let me tell you, Ashraf, there is something that many people may not know in South Africa. There is a book I wrote, A Cry from the Heart. Tracy Going hosted me, I think, more than twice, and Felicia Mabuza Cycle when I wrote that book. It was about how I was raped when I was a 6-year-old. And I can tell you that I had difficulties within the ANC, how they were treating that rape victim, Kwesi, if you still remember that story.
Of course, yeah.
And when we started going through all these problems, when President Zuma had now become the president of the Republic, I was extremely concerned that, this corruption was just of no consequence, and I could see that merit was no longer mattered. It was just to ritual and not to ANC policies and stuff like that. And I think that in a way was infuriating me. And I think there was a subtext to it, because there was something as well that was sitting like, you know, I ought to have stood up when, you know, during the time of Kwezi, but I never did. And maybe that as well was a subtext to it. Okay. But corruption to me is self-sabotaging. There's just no, it's a mathematical absurdity, you know. If you are corrupt, at the end of the day, the books are not going to balance out, you know. So it were all those things that were happening, and you will recall that there was also billions of rands that we wasted on those those coaches that were bought, only to find that they were not fitting. I mean, really, Ashraf, just think about it. If you were myself, wouldn't you become rebellious? When things like that are happening in front of you, there is there is a Gupta family landing in Waterkloof, and there was just so many things that were happening at the same time, and I just felt, you know what? Let me rather be known as being rebellious. So be it.
So the rebellious one, yeah. What do you feel? I mean, you called for an anti-corruption within the ANC. You were critical of the then President Zuma, and of course, very soon you were out of the ANC anyway. But fast forward to where we are now. I mean, what do you think about how events have unfolded since then?
To be honest with you, if you recall, there was a lot of pressure. When I started ADEC, by the way, one of the things that people do not talk about is that there was Ramaphoria in South Africa. And no matter what I tried to say to people, President, with due respect, the President Ramaphosa is not a decisive leader. Those were witnesses that I observed even when I was fighting corruption in Parliament, within the ANC, you know, during caucus meetings and even during ANC structures and so forth. And to me, I observed that weakness. That is why when I was, a lot of, you know, businesses were putting pressure to me to say, join Ramaphosa. But I knew that if I'm joining him, I'm going to be frustrated. And I thought, at least with Zuma, he stood for something, no matter what it was. You know what I mean? At least there was rural development. We know that it was his signature. But with Ramaphosa, I could not see this new dawn. I just could not see the new dawn. I only saw a nightmare. And guess what? We are in that nightmare right now.
Sure. So if you say, and you know from the inside, you saw a Ramaphosa who's unable to make decisions, who's not decisive, how does a person then like that get a job that says President, South Africa?
Well, I do think that big businesses that financed Ramaphosa's ascendance to the ANC presidency, I mean, they have to own up. And I am disturbed by their silence. There is just so much that is going on right now. And everything has collapsed. So he used to speak about 9 wasted years. But how do we account for his 8 years? In fact, in South Africa, there is nothing that hasn't collapsed. It's like the ANC have perfected the art of destroying anything that works. And it's quite a bad reflection on us as a people, because these are some of the things that will actually that feed racist stereotypes. You get what I mean? Where people start thinking that, black people cannot govern. It's like it's our signature. We are inherently corrupt. And that's not true. The problem is that we also have been support somebody that they know very well is not gonna cut it. Already, at least they should have given him time the first tenure, okay, and say, okay, fine. Surely they should be saying something today. Surely they should be standing up and saying, you know what? And own up and say, we Ross.
Okay, I tell you what, let's hear what you say from not being happy you couldn't see the new dawn. Well, what about the national dialogue and the GNU? We'll ask you that in a moment.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Desert Foxes want to set the tone and triumph against Mzansi. However, Bafana Bafana are focusing on 3 essential points. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Do not miss out on Algeria versus South Africa on Friday, 8 August at 4 p.m. Live at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89 followed by your name to 41391 and stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, let's we continue chatting to Makhosi Khoza. For the next 8 minutes. So the question to you: you can't see the new dawn, but what about the national dialogue?
The national dialogue, I think it's just a waste of resources. To me, of our public resources. I'm not sure what we are going to achieve with the national dialogue. I'm not sure what are we going to achieve with that. And I do think that in South Africa, you need to start. It's like we are trying to disguise the government is trying to disguise its own failures. They are not addressing the real issues, the service delivery issues at all levels of the state, whether you are talking about national, provincial, or local government. Nobody seems to have any joy. Even with the so-called GNU, I don't see how the GNU has not delivered anything to me as far as I'm concerned. And I do think that in the province like KwaZulu-Natal, to be honest with you, I really think that it kind of undermined the democratic voice of the people. Notwithstanding that former President Jacob Zuma is the founder of MK Party, I honestly do think that MK Party, the people gave MK Party more than 45%. And if we are talking about GNU, let the people learn that we have elected wrongfully if they did that.
It's a good point.
Now
I mean,
they have
yeah.
no way of knowing because those people were actually sidelined.
Yeah, you mean they would have
get
been
what I'm saying? So
under
it
normal
actually undermines
circumstances.
the very democratic
It's a good point. I mean, under normal circumstances, with a few percent short of 50%, the MK party would have actually governed the KZN for good or for bad. We would have known what they could have done. So I think your point is taken. But in KZN, right? That's right. But here's the question. So isn't the fact that they're having the national dialogue, isn't that a telling admission that we are wrong on so many fronts, all the things you've mentioned early on, and this dialogue is a way to find a solution outside the party political parliamentary space?
I think the government, the GNU is passing a vote of no confidence on itself. It is saying it cannot govern because that means they don't know what to do. Why do you have the national dialogue if the GNU is actually working? I think they had an opportunity to showcase what a multi-party democracy, that the fact that you have multi-party, you have quite a number of parties in the executive. I think we should have. To me, I think the problem with that is that they have weakened the oversight function. If you look at the full oversight function now in Parliament, just the other day you have some CEOs passing envelopes and whatnot, money is trying to bribe and what have you. Every day we're learning new things, you know. And you look at the Mkwanazi expose, there's just too much that is happening right now.
Yeah.
And I'm saying with this GNU, we really, really weakened the opposition. I think we've weakened the opposition. And now there is nobody who is as strong to challenge the ANC and hold the ANC accountable. We are kind of shielding the ANC, behind this GNU.
Okay, we've got about 3 minutes to go. We probably need to have another political discussion with you some other time, not today. But in 3 minutes, I'll rush through some very quick questions and you can answer them. So what is your purpose when you think of your life? Like, what is your purpose? Quick, short answer.
My purpose is really social justice. I would love to see every single child of South Africa having equal access to opportunities. And right now, the language barrier is a real problem. I mean, you've just seen with South Africa has made inroads now. We are number one. We are top now in mathematics. But if you look at the racial profile of that, the reality is that the Bantu children are left out again, and Khoisan children. And I do think that it all boils down to the language barrier crisis.
Point made.
So that's my purpose. I see my purpose as pursuing social justice.
What do you think has been your biggest achievement?
And equal opportunities.
What has been your biggest achievement when you reflect on your life and your career?
I think my biggest achievement is that, one, I do think that I have managed to, wherever I went, like I used to be the CEO of SALGA, and I pride myself with the fact that when I was in local government, we had very functional municipalities because I used to be an activist CEO. When there is a problem in a particular municipality, I'll go there directly, And I think many people are just looking at PECs and not the service. And to me, I think that was one of I think I contributed a lot in local government, even authoring a book, Being Yourself, Representing Others, because I wanted council what it means to be yourself, but representing others and not representing your belly.
Okay. How, just two things. Who, I know you want to meet Vusi Thembekwayo, that's now, but overall, which South African have you really admired and over the years, and how would you like to be remembered? I mean, if you can answer that in 30 seconds, because we need to get to news now.
I would like to be remembered as somebody who is able to stand up regardless of the consequences. And I can tell you now, the ANC closed all doors for me, even at universities, everywhere. But I said, this is not about me now. It's about future generations. At least they must know that one woman stood up when it was not fashionable to do so.
And who have you admired over the years? Like one person that has stood out for you as a beacon of light and hope all through the years?
All the time when I think of somebody that I really admire, I do, funny enough, I do admire Helen Suzman. I admire her. I admire the fact that she was a lone woman. And frankly, even when I was in parliament and I stood up as a woman alone, and somehow I would picture her, with all those men in that parliament, and she was able to articulate herself. Yeah, so Helen Suzman.
Well, listen, Vusi Tembakayo may say yes to your coffee chat, out to lunch, whatever, one day. If not, we're happy to be on standby. That's number 2. And number 3, we need to have another conversation with you on some of the biggest issues that you've touched on and how we can resolve it. But that's not for the fireside chat. Our time today, unfortunately, is up. Great talking to you, and I have no doubts that you've inspired a national audience here on the National Pulse. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ashraf.
There we are. Makhosi Khoza. Does she impress you or what? Think about it. Have a magic weekend. Here's Greg with the news.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Child assault victim dies in hospital in Germany, halts military exports to Israel. Good evening. A 4-year-old girl from Eldorado Park, south of Johannesburg, who was in hospital after allegedly being beaten and sexually assaulted by her father, has died of her injuries. This has been confirmed by Gauteng police, who say the docket has now been changed to murder and that an additional charge of rape has also been added. Puseletso Mukwena reports.
During her father's arrest on Wednesday, the little girl was found by the police on the bed with head injuries, bruises and swollen eye. She's been on life support at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital in Soweto. Both her parents were arrested and appeared in the Protea Magistrate Court today. The man is charged with attempted murder and rape, whilst the mother faces a charge of defeating the ends of justice. This means that the man will now be charged with murder. Puseletso Mukwena, SABC News.
A suspected serial rapist has appeared at the Nyenya Magistrates Court outside Zenine in Limpopo, facing 19 charges, including 11 of rape. His case has been postponed to next week for a bail application. Meanwhile, the Justice Minister, Mameluko Kubai, has commended police for the man's arrest.
The briefing we receive is that the gentleman or the man was appearing this morning in court, remanded in custody, will appear again. And this, they're appearing in terms of bail, and we hope both the investigating officer and the prosecutor is going to oppose bail, but also because the magistrates, the judiciary, are not passive participants in the process in terms of justice. They've got to be able to assist us without us directing them on what to be done. But in terms of ensuring that there is administrative of justice, everybody has a role to play.
The MK party says its former Secretary General, Floyd Shivambu, is no longer a member of the party. In a media briefing, the party's leadership outlined resolutions from its latest national officials meeting. Shivambu was moved from his position earlier this year to focus on parliamentary work shortly before he launched his Mayibuya Dialogue initiative. MK party national chairperson Nkosinathi Nhleko.
The leadership of Umkhonto weSizwe had considered these utterances and actions and arrived at a conclusion that the former Secretary